What is up, folks? I have everything sorted. Greetings, everybody. Happy Monday. What's up, Space Hoppercopter, Dark Rift, Miyagi Retro, lurkers in chat, VOD viewers, and everybody else. I am personally doing pretty well. I am rather excited. Finally, get back to James Bond. And not only James Bond in general, but a game I have been very, very curious to check out for the entirety of this project, which is From Russia with Love. A game that I think always had a degree of novelty and interest to it, just on account of being a game for a very old movie. Not strictly the only of its kind in the pantheon of Bond games, but certainly at the time of its release, the game based on the then oldest movie. There were the like 80s games. There's like the text adventure based on Goldfinger. There were also the sort of kind of after the fact tacked on Live and Let Die title on a game that is kind of unrelated. What's up, Mr. Radon? But certainly in the era of modern 3D big budget games, going back to old films and essentially creating, I don't know if an adaptation is an accurate word for it. We'll get into that as we do some prep and research before we start playing. But at least, you know, using a particular old film as a jumping off point for a new game. But also, it's a game that I think even at the time seemed to have a positive sort of buzz around it, I suppose. I don't recall ever hearing like, or you know, reading reviews or anything, but it seemed to be a game that was positively received, I suppose. But more specifically, in the journey of you know, exploring the history of Bond games, having played Everything or Nothing and kind of pretty firmly declared it so far the best Bond game, From Russia with Love is the follow-up from the same studio, which means I have very high expectations. It appears, from what tiny little amount of footage I've seen, to be a pretty similar kind of game, the way it's you know, the way it looks, the way it plays. And I think Everything or Nothing, part of why I, you know, can pretty easily say that it's like the best game so far, is that not only is it like well structured and, you know, mechanically interesting and you know, feels good and everything, it very, you know, diligently does everything you would kind of hope or want from a Bond game. So I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, so I can't say definitively that it's the highest scoring game on the Bond quotient, you know, calculations, but it has to be up there, if not at the very top. And that just kind of makes for a fun experience in general. What's up, Personal Play Paradigms? Welcome, welcome. Play Mario Tennis. I hope you enjoy. Much for the kind words, appreciate it. Welcome, and I hope you enjoy your stay. The funny thing is, so we watched the film on Saturday. It was my first time watching From Russia with Love. I've seen most Bond films, but there's a handful that I have never seen, and there's, I would say, more than a handful that I have seen at least fragments of, or you know, bits and pieces as a kid, but not really to the point where I could like recall anything specifically from them. But From Russia with Love, I am pretty sure I had never watched. And if I'd seen it as a kid, I probably wouldn't, like, well, if I was a very young child at least, I probably wouldn't care much for it, especially if I was comparing it to other Bond films. Because it is, I would say, really quite good. I thought it was really entertaining and compelling and well made. but it is the second Bond film, and it is pretty well sort of understood and established that Goldfinger, the third film, is the one that kind of codified a lot of what you think of as like what a Bond film is. Dr. No, and perhaps more so From Russia with Love, certainly have, like, a lot of the stuff is there, but it takes slightly different form, and in some cases, like, isn't really quite there. Like, From Russia with Love has the gun barrel opening, but it's like a little bit different than you would expect from later films. It has opening credits that are pretty, like, I don't even know, I was gonna say fantastical. That's not really the right word for it. If anything, they're quite low-key by sort of Bond standards.
You shall be a champion of the good, a protector of the weak and innocent. You shall become a Dragon Master.
Shall indeed become a Dragon Master, personal play paradigms, but don't let it get to your head. Wield your newfound powers responsibly, and I think we'll be okay. It has an opening credit sequence, but it's a little bit different the way it's all shot in camera. They like project the credits onto like this belly dancer or whatever. It's just kind of a different style, but also it has like a theme song, but the theme song does not actually play over the opening credits. There's all these little things that you're kind of used to following a fairly rigid formula that just at that point hadn't really been, established yet. And the film itself is like a pretty intimate, I guess you could call it, sort of spy thriller. I don't want to say that it's like low key or that it's too sort of mundane or anything. Like, it's actually a pretty fun and interesting and exciting plot, but it doesn't have like a lot of spectacle. There's like 2 action scenes in the film. And it has like a pretty small cast of characters, and there's not a ton of locations. Like, it is it has this sort of globe-trotting aspect, sure, but it, again, like, when you think of Bond films, From Russia with Love is, and I think it's partially why it's well regarded, that like it doesn't really fit that formula. Like, for me, I can't help but draw comparisons to License to Kill, which is another film that is like easily among my favorite Bond films, but also a film that I think stands out, and I could see why some people who might be very fond of the kind of formulaic nature, or like who are very strong opinions about how a Bond film should be, that they might not like it because it kind of deviates from that. And I think From Russia with Love is kind of the same way, where it's the fact that it deviates from, like, in hindsight at least, it sort of subverts your expectations a little bit. And even though it doesn't do it in some kind of elaborate way, it doesn't like pull the rug out from under you or throw curveballs or anything. It just, by its nature of having a slightly different kind of plot, and it doesn't, the plot doesn't have a bunch of contrivances to allow for particular kind of stunt set piece scenes or that kind of thing. I mean, there's a few bits and pieces here and there, but the action that happens and everything feels completely in service of the plot that's happening in the story that's being told. So it has like kind of a refreshing vibe to it, I think. But also the fact that the plot is sort of a little bit more intimate. I feel like you end up spending kind of more time with the characters in a way that like Connery's Bond is not only like on screen for a lot of the film, but it's kind of it's got like I said it when we were watching it, like it's almost got this kind of comfy vacation vibe for at least the first half of it before a lot of the actual sort of plot is set in motion. But it is just kind of this chill hangout film. And I was struck watching it that it's like, yeah, it's a well-regarded film, But of all the old films you could go back to, if you are EA Redwood Shores, you've released Everything or Nothing, it's a successful game, and you want to make another Bond game, or perhaps you're tasked with making another Bond game. Obviously, I don't know anything about the decision-making process, but I would have to imagine that the studio themselves would have had some amount of say in what they were going to make. And how did they arrive at From Russia with Love? Because when you watch it, it doesn't really feel like a film that makes, like, that has a bunch of obvious stuff turned into video game levels or anything like that. So it felt fairly obvious watching the film that the game's gonna have to deviate quite a bit. But that, at this point, I'm kind of excited for that. I want to see what they do with it. I feel like the stuff that's actually directly from the movie is gonna kind of be almost stand out from like whatever else they fill it with. And as I was looking up a few bits of promotional materials and stuff for us to look at before we play, that impression only grew stronger, because of all the sort of trailer stuff and some press photos and things I looked at, screenshots, I could recognize like 2 or 3 things from the film, and everything else I saw, I was like, well, okay, I'm curious how they slot this in. So it kind of feels like it was sort of a, they could kind of take in almost whatever movie. And I mean, maybe this one felt like they gave them the biggest freedom to kind of do whatever. But regardless, Everything or Nothing was a great game, and I reckon this will be too. And it, you know, again, judging from the fact that a fair amount of liberties appear to have been taken, I'm not really worried that the kind of intimate, low-key nature, whatever you want to call it, of the film's plot is going to limit the game in any way and make it anything less exciting. Yeah, I'm very curious, but we're going to find out together tonight. We're going to, like I said, do some prepper. We're going to read through the manual. We're going to look at some promotional materials. We're going to set the mood, and then we will finally proceed with mission 34 of James Bond and move things forward. We're entering an exciting era because I believe this is the final PS2 Xbox game, and well, Quantum of Solace has a PS2 version, but it's the I guess you could say it's the last game of a particular kind of era. It might actually be the final EA Bond game, now that I think of it, because Activision would eventually start publishing. Activision kind of held the license for the sort of final leg of this journey. But once we get to like the 360 stuff, etc., DS, what have you, there'll also be a parallel track with all these phone games. We looked at a few phone games earlier, but there's going to be more of them, and I'm quite curious to see how that part of it's going to work out. What's up, Sean? Or at some point, this was meant to be coming to 360. I mean, it seems like a lot of the EA Bond games had a pretty tumultuous development. Several of them were like delayed and changed a lot during production. But I don't know that that applies to the Redwood Shores ones, because Everything or Nothing doesn't exactly come across as a game. Because you look at Rogue Agent, perhaps more than any, but even Agent Under Fire and some degree Nightfire, maybe not the console version, but the PC version is kind of weird. Like, all those games have more or less sort of telltale signs of a troubled development. And ended up in kind of a weird spot. You know, even if the game, some of them ended up all right. But Everything or Nothing doesn't really have that, and I didn't get to play From Russia with Love yet. We're going to be playing it today. We're starting today. But they seem really, really polished. so maybe not. But yeah, it came out in, I think, in November of 2005. So that would have been right around the 360 launch. And I haven't dug into it, but you know, there were like Agent Under Fire, I think, started out as a, I was gonna say started out as The World's Not Enough, but I guess they already did make that game, but it was like a sequel to that. I think it was on the PS1 originally, and then it kind of moved to the PS2. Yeah, that one's kind of weird, where it had like John Cleese's Q is he was featured in the game in like pre-release footage, but he's not in the actual final game. There's weird stuff like that with that game. So it's not outside the realm of possibility that this game at some point would have been planned for to get like a next gen version at some point. But even by standards of licensed stuff with the whole Sean Connery thing and everything, I could only imagine it would be even more complicated to do something like that. But like I said, you know, even I don't even know how long EA had the rights after this, because I think this might have been their last Bond game. And I think Quantum of Solace was the first Activision one, but I suppose I'm not super positive on the timeline. Even that would have been with a bit of a delay. But given that the Quantum of Solace game also is like an adaptation of Casino Royale, maybe they like maybe that game was meant to come out earlier based on that film. I'm not sure, but we'll dig into that stuff a little bit more as we get to it. I remember seeing screenshots of a PC version of The World's Not Enough. That was acted as a springboard for one of the PC games. Yeah, I think that's what it was. World's Not Enough. EA put out 2 different games on PS1 and N64, and I think they were working on a PS2 version / I guess a PC version that might have been the same. Like there was a sort of enhanced version of some kind, and that ended up transforming into Agent Under Fire, which is kind of crazy when you think of it, because it's like, it's funny how those things work out, because there doesn't seem to be a ton of stuff in that game that feels like it would have been specific. Like there are things you can look at. There is a kind of mansion stealth level that is, you could imagine it being built from repurposed from parts of the mansion stealth section from World's Not Enough. And I want to say there's like one or 2 other things like that where you could, knowing about it in hindsight, you can sort of piece the threads together. But it ended up being kind of a different thing. But even then, like, it's funny looking at the marketing and everything, how they play up this whole thing like, oh, it's an original Bond movie story with original characters, and it's like, it's got like 3 cutscenes, and every character in the game shows up in like 2 shots of one cutscene and have maybe 1 line of dialogue, and then they just never exist. So the actual sort of narrative aspect of that game is, it would be generous to call it paper thin, which is, you know, a little odd if that is how it was planned from the get-go. But if it was like something they managed to, you know, awkwardly throw together at the end of an extended trouble development cycle, it kind of makes a little more sense. Game was Quake 3. Yeah, I mean, it's also possible. I didn't do a ton of research, so I don't have any proper facts or details, certainly not at the top of my head. But it's possible that the PC stuff you're describing is even separate from that game that came out. Or that it was like, I don't know, existed in parallel, because there was no PC version of Agent Under Fire, so whatever was in development for the PC never came out at all. And PS2 game certainly is not, to my knowledge, well, I say certainly as if I know what I'm talking about, but it wouldn't seem to me like it's a Quake 3 engine game. Also, it runs like shit. If Quake 3 ran fine on Dreamcast, doesn't seem likely that it would run terribly on Xbox. As soon as renderware, probably, yeah. Probably. I don't remember, but that seems likely. Because EA would eventually acquire renderware, but I assume that they would have been using it for some stuff before that point. But just in general, early 2000s multi-platform console games, like with no other information, it's usually a somewhat safe bet to assume that they were probably on renderware, irrespective of any other factors. Anywho, we will dive into the world of Bond and From Russia with Love shortly. However, we have one more order of business before we get to it, and I'm glad that there's already a bunch of folks here because I'm going to need your help. You may be aware that I have recently been putting in a concentrated effort to build the first World of Jiggy interactive minigame for the stream. And we did some playtesting, which was highly informative for me and revealed some critical flaws in the game with regards to difficulty balancing and what have you. I have since Saturday's stream made some changes, and before I kind of formally properly launch this as a thing, which the way it's going to work is it's going to be a channel point redemption, that if people really feel like it, as if it's going to be like some highly unusual thing. I kind of hope not. But if anyone does feel like it, you can redeem a certain amount of Jig Bucks to play a cooperative bonus minigame using the powers of Twitch chat and my highly rickety engineering. But before I am going to charge channel points for something like that, I did want to kind of make sure that it doesn't, you know, completely fall apart. So I, like I said, I made some changes, and I reckon before we get to the Bond action, the main event of tonight's stream, we're gonna just do a quick little detour, and we will do a little playtest and see how it goes. I reckon it's gonna work better, but there's still some questions remaining with regards to balancing. So without further ado, let's, if I have my quick shortcut buttons ready here, let's initiate Super Death Blow. All right, so if you haven't been around for this experience previously, let me quickly explain how this works. It is up to you, chat, using the power of textual inputs to coach Lil Jig into performing the Hadouken Super Death Blow, and to do so 5 times within the 60-second time limits, or whatever limit we end up setting. I can tweak this on the fly, but we'll rock the standard difficulty here and see how it goes. You will see the inputs on screen that need to be performed, and you will be seeing a progression meter of sorts that tells you how many inputs have been correctly input. And once the full sequence has been inputted, the move will be performed, and after a slight delay, you can start working on the next one. Everyone can contribute, and the major change that I made since last time is that I have completely removed any penalties or fail states. So everyone can give it a shot. No one needs to be afraid of messing anything up. So whenever you see the inputs on screen, try your best to input the correct one, or to input them in the correct order, and we'll see how it goes. And if you still are confused about how this goes, I will leave it to you to help coach or explain to each other, or just figure it out by trial and error. So without further ado, let's see how it goes. Just double check that my shortcuts are configured correctly, such that you will actually be able to play. I think this should be set up correct. Let's do it. Should be working, so there we go. I didn't have time to clean up the text, the chat window on the left there, so I'm gonna try to make it look a little prettier, but it works. And as you can see, multiple inputs do no longer trigger fail states. Hey, there we go. Actually got it to work. I think that's the properly first chat executed special move. Guys are definitely gonna have to pick up the pace a little bit. There we go, people are waking up. Be a little too late. But I think that was still a successful test. I was worried about the time limit, but it's hard to gauge. It requires a certain amount of activity. But I'm happy enough with that test. But we can actually we can try something else here, because the final component to this whole game is the prediction. PB, yeah, you guys did pretty well. You did a lot better than before. So why don't we make it interesting? In the spirit of Games Bond, let's add an element of well, I was gonna say illicit. It's highly licit gambling. So I believe if I do this, this should set up. Doesn't look like it's working. Ah, never mind. So place your bets. Are you guys gonna be able to do it or not? You will get to bet on your own ability to complete the minigame. And have Little Jig receive enlightenment. Unfortunately, well, maybe for the better. I was gonna say, unfortunately, I can't predict myself, but I still have a couple seconds to do so. All right, we're getting some chunky bets here. Love to see it. So we're gonna, it's gonna add some investment to the results here, and this might be skewed in one way or another because of how the game's gonna work, but it's all in the spirit of shameless engagement bait. Sounds like a trap to lure a Little Jig into procrastinating in his training. I don't know about that. All right, looks like the prediction is closed and it disappeared from my screen, so I don't actually know what the stakes are, but all is ready. So let's give this another go. Let's try again. Do it. Get ready and go. One input per line, otherwise it will not work. Seasoned professional Macaw 45 might have a stake in this bet. But it's interesting, like, I don't know, because this is like our first time playing this properly. If people are actually collaborating and trying their best to do it as quickly as possible, like, the time's looking pretty tight. All right, 2 more. Ah, so close. So I think the strat's gonna be accounting for Twitch lag and starting inputting the next one early. But it's gonna be tricky. But I think that's I'm actually pretty excited. This is there's more depth and nuance to the gameplay here than I'm perhaps anticipated. Let me try to hit a button here to see if it works as intended. Lil Jig failed to receive enlightenment. Prediction result is no. What does that actually mean, though? I have a little shortcut to do. Oh, there we go. See details. 307,000 jig bucks. Go to Unhinged NPC and Mudu-sama. Well, congrats. That was awesome. Well, I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I sure did too. I've been a little nervous after things kind of didn't go so great last time. But I think this is gonna work, and I think people actually want to do it. There's gonna be some engagement and investment here. That's all I was hoping for. 1,800,000 points is being paid out according to me. That doesn't seem quite right, but whatever. Rate limit seems like a factor. Do you mean in terms of like chat messages and inputs coming through? I don't think so. That shouldn't be a thing, but that's not something I've been able to really test too hard. But I think just removing the fail state altogether was the right move. Oh, Twitch was telling. Oh, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. Yeah, but I was even considering enabling slow mode to kind of discourage single player attempts. Like to just encourage multiple people to have to collaborate. But I think that almost already is kind of the case where if someone tries to do it themselves, you kind of almost maybe have to go slow enough that the time limit's not quite enough. Which would end up like a beautiful bit of inadvertent game balance. But you were going like not super fast at the beginning. You were pretty close to getting it. So I think with a little bit of practice, you guys are gonna get this down pat. But yeah, that concludes this little experiment. And I think we might be ready to this game just might be ready for prime time. So thank you very much for your helpful testing data, and I hope you had a fun time. Now, let's return.
Yes, I'm very impressed.
Thank you. Return to our ordinary programming. All right. Much as I enjoy this jam, we can tone it down a little bit. Game has 0 issues. Not sure that's entirely true. Close enough. Get some campfire jams going. How about that? But yeah, thanks again, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I sure did. Actually, before we advance, I did want to show you this. Gonna be light on the details, but I showed you this. Well, it's gonna be easy to be light on details. You can't see shit. But it's my little notepad that I have in addition to my online digital notes. But I have some sketches, some designs, some ideas for stuff that might get built in the future. So still work in progress, but the creative juices are flowing. And it looks like I will have a pretty solid chunk of time off over the holidays, which isn't to say that I won't be working on anything until then. But I think I'm going to probably try to make another kind of focused effort over the break. And I should probably be able to do another full minigame. But I also have a bunch of ideas for other kind of idle scenes and some other things. Some new character skins and stuff like that. So there's an endless list of stuff I want to make. It's just a matter of deciding where to put my focus. But getting through this and have it actually kind of work has only added to my motivation and excitement to keep working on it. So that's awesome. Again, for everyone who... And with that, I think we are finally ready. Hop on over to the old Bond scene. "007 from Russia with Love" is going to be our next game. Released, as mentioned, in the fall of 2005, developed by EA Redwood Shores. Inspired by the 1963 movie of the same name, From Russia with Love lets you play as the classic James Bond as portrayed by Sean Connery. Drive in classic cars and use upgradable weapons and gadgetry to complete the game's non-linear missions. That's right, I forgot about that aspect. I'm very curious what that means in the context of Everything or Nothing's extremely short, mostly linear, and highly awesome missions. Find out. From Russia with Love also lets you invest in and upgrade your character to customize his performance. That's a pretty new thing as well. So that's going to be exciting. Before we hop in, we do have some materials for us to look at. Do I have the... Yeah, okay. Let's take a closer look. The back of the box. Enter the world of classic James Bond. Customize your Bond with upgradable gadgets, weapons, and clothing. I cannot wait to upgrade my Bond's clothing. Clothing upgrades is something I am highly passionate about. Speed through missions in classic cars, speedboats, or a jetpack. None of which appear in the film, I might add. James Bond does technically drive in the film, but he drives a truck for like one scene. Shoot with pinpoint accuracy using the new Bond focus mode. So I did play about 3 seconds of this game because I was curious. Oh, I needed to confirm that it was working and everything. And it, just like Everything or Nothing, it throws you right into the game. There's no title screen or options or anything. You just like go right into the game. And it seemed like they changed the aiming controls quite considerably, because the manual aiming from Everything or Nothing appears to be gone. It still has the kind of lock-on system, but it didn't have the, as far as I could tell, moving the reticle around. So maybe this is some sort of a kind of upgrade or different take on it. Wonder what the Bond fashion meta is. I'm excited to see. Like, I reckon there's going to be a bunch of unlockable stuff that requires gold medals and grinding and finding secret Bond maneuvers and whatnot. So I don't know how much of it we'll actually, you know, find. But the prospect of it even being there is pretty exciting. Battle it out to be the deadliest villain in all-out multiplayer death matches. Pretty cool. That's something, I don't know, I guess it's possible that there's like bots, but we probably will not get to experience too much of the multiplayer aspect. Force System Link. Soundtracks, that was a sick feature. Oh, never mind. X indicates features supported by this game, so it does in fact not support System Link apparently, or the memory unit, or custom soundtracks, or other or HD TV 480p. I guess what that means to... I guess that simply means whether it supports progressive scan or not. Starring Sean Connery as James Bond. Also starring pretty much everyone else from the movie. Now, I have to imagine... Like, Sean Connery does provide the voice for Bond, which is going to be kind of a weird thing. Because he does sound every one of those 40 years older. I guess they have the likenesses to all the other characters, so it makes sense that they can put their names on the box. But surely they didn't get the entire cast of the film back to do voiceover. Special appearance by Maria Munoz and Natasha Bedingfield. I'm guessing those are new characters, because there sure are some characters featured in this, based on what I've seen from the promo materials, that were not in the film. We have some advertisement. This one is in German, but we have an English. So yeah, I guess there's going to be a briefcase chain gun. Why 00 agents prefer the Q-Lab Aston Martin. Yeah, so this is yeah, so that's the actual lady from the film. And Sean Connery Bond standing next to the car, which pretty sure does not appear at all in the film. This was Connery's last Bond performance. Well, it probably would have been the first one in quite some time as well, for that matter. Because I don't know that he ever really did... I mean, I suppose I don't really know what it would be. It's not like there was a bunch of animated Bond films or anything. But I mean, it's kind of a like it's an interesting thing that they both that they chose to go that direction and that they managed to get him. Like, it's one of those things where it's like there are other examples like that too, where you can kind of there's the Star Trek point and click adventure games, 25th anniversary and Judgment Rights, where they got pretty much the entire TOS cast. And it's really funny in those games because the graphics in the game is really cool, but all of the Star Trek crew are drawn like super, not even super buff, but just like svelte and extremely athletic, like Adonis like god figures. And everyone sounds like they're in their 70s, which is just provides a pretty funny contrast. But even Christopher Lloyd, who is like, he will take the slightest opportunity to do a Doc Brown anything for anyone, it seems. Which I'm not judging. Like, it's cool that he's so sort of passionate about the character and happy to do it, but let's call it the creative intent behind it sometimes isn't, you know, it comes across as more genuine than others. He did, of course, do Doc Brown's voice in the Telltale Back to the Future video game. And I think they got what's his name? Biff Tannen reprising his role as well. I believe I'm blanking on the actor's name, but he's like, you know, he does a lot of acting and voice acting and stuff, so like that kind of makes sense. But of course they did not get Michael J. Fox, and Thomas, yeah, maybe I'm getting him mixed up with someone else, but whatever. I think they got him. Could be mistaken, but either way, the most obvious thing is like Michael J. Fox wasn't like available to voice work, so they got this like sound alike, and he does a really good job. Like when you play the game, especially because his, you know, the visuals are all sort of cartoony and everything. If everything isn't 100% perfect, you don't have like the mismatch of a photoreal sort of automaton with kind of a slightly wrong voice coming out of it. You have like a cartoon Marty McFly with a voice that sounds like Marty McFly, and then when Doc Brown is on screen, he sounds like 50 years older than in the movies, and it's like, oh, this is a little bit weird. And I'm sure we're gonna have a bit of that in this game too. Granted, I reckon it's gonna still be charming, and it's gonna presumably be something we get used to pretty quickly. But it's a peculiar kind of a situation to end up in when you're trying to like adapt things like this. But I thought they did they did a really good job with Goldfinger in Rogue Agent, because I feel like he sounds just like Goldfinger should sound. And actually, on that note, they had Christopher Lee phoning in his performance as Scaramanga, which is like terrible. Not because he's old, just because he doesn't give a shit, and it's like it's just the writing. It's not. I mean, he's fine and whatever, but like the work, frankly, was beneath him, so I can't fault him for not exactly putting his all into it. But he sure sounds older, you know. Yeah, Ghostbusters, that makes sense to me. Doesn't surprise me at all. Godfather, yeah, like it's just a, you know, it's an inevitable kind of a challenge. Nowadays, I suppose it would be interesting to, like, setting aside whatever moral, you know, issues, just from a technical standpoint, processing, like having, I don't know who would be a good example, but let's say Christopher Lloyd do a voice performance as Doc Brown. Christopher Lloyd came to mind because he's like still alive. But then, you know, process it digitally, do whatever with it, like massage it a little bit to make it sound younger. Which I'm sure is something that's still, like, I'm sure that happens for stuff like whatever Star Wars shit or whatever, you know. But to be clear, I'm not saying like do a robot AI approximation of someone's voice, but just like if the actual performance, like, I don't know if they did that with any James Earl Jones Vader stuff or what have you, or if they just got someone else, or if they just use a fucking AI robot to do it. Sure wouldn't put it past them. But like I said, you know, that you can get into some hairy territory there with what's okay and not. But I figured, like, if it's the actual actor is there and they approve of it and whatever, that's like a bit of a different story. What's up, Father Axekeeper? Hope you didn't miss game. You missed Lil Jig almost receiving enlightenment, but not quite. The new and rebalanced Super Death Blow game, but there will be plenty of chances for that in the future. We have, however, not yet begun From Russia with Love. We're still deep in the lore section. But yeah, you know, another contemporary example, I guess, of sort of the opposite, in a sense, is the Indiana Jones game, where, you know, Harrison Ford not doing the voice is like the least surprising thing ever. I'm pretty sure he never did voice work for any of that stuff. Like, he sure didn't do the voice for like Fate of Atlantis, but they wouldn't, like, there's no way they could get that caliber of famous people to do voices for their games at that point, like even, you know, Lucasfilm being involved. But I'm pretty sure Harrison Ford never did like that kind of stuff. Like, he'll lend his likeness and get a paycheck, sure, but if it involves actual work, screw that. And again, more power to him, you know. Not judging. But especially now, like, I thought in Dial of Destiny, the like 30-minute opening scene or whatever with like young CG Indiana Jones was technically pretty well made. Like, he wasn't jarringly fake looking or anything, but he sounded like an old man, you know? I felt like it sounded kind of weird. And that actually, that would be a good example probably where they might have done some digital trickery to try to make it sound younger. But as I recall, I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater, but I recall it being like, I mean, you're highly aware of it when you're watching, so it might stand out more than it would otherwise, but it you know, wasn't perfect. So I'm really glad that they got Troy Baker to do his best Indiana Jones impression. And I think the first time I saw a trailer for that game, it sounded a little, you know, for about 3 or 4 seconds, and then you just kind of get into it. And I think he does a fine job. But I think that was like totally the right move. Even if Harrison Ford had been available, it, like, having an actual professional voice actor who can, as far as I can tell, do a pretty good impression, it's gonna make for a better performance and a better product. So I don't think getting like an 80-year-old Harrison Ford who positively would not give a shit, like, I cannot see how that would have made for a better performance. Tom Hanks's brother, like, he is basically Jim Hanks is basically Tom Hanks's voice, like, professional voice double, who does it like for every, like, he does I think he does all the, well, I was gonna say Toy Story sequels. They weren't actual shit straight to video sequels or whatever, but if they were, I'm sure he would do the voice. Like, I'm pretty sure he does it like in Kingdom Hearts and whatever. It's like basically anything that isn't a numbered Toy Story theatrical sequel. I'm pretty sure Jim does the voice for Woody. But yeah, it's just like funny how that kind of stuff can work out. But I think in a lot of cases, like, having the actual person, especially if they're like trying to recreate something from 30, 40, 60 years ago, doesn't necessarily make for the best, like, final product. Anyway, that was a little side tangent. I'm sure it will come up again over the course of the game. More ads. Go on better. Go Jetpack. So the Jetpack was in Thunderball, right? So, you know, it makes sense that they take some stuff from, like, adjacent Bond films. The chain gun attaché case, though, is like, that's maybe a bit video gamey, but that's not a bad thing. I think this game, I suspect, based on like the tiny snippets of stuff I've seen, they're not overly concerned about staying faithful to the suspenseful and intimate tone of the motion picture from Russia with Love. It seems to me that their idea is more of like, let's do what we did with Everything or Nothing, but with Sean Connery instead. And we'll borrow a few details from this one film, but it's gonna be just a big Bond video game. And I think that's probably a good call. Yeah, like, it's gonna be like period appropriate, I'm sure. But as I mentioned before, like, we watched the film on Saturday, and it had like 2 action scenes, 3, I guess. And most of it is just like kind of people talking. But it's gonna be really fascinating to see. Like, there's some stuff which, like, obviously that's gonna be in the game, like the shootout at the camp. Like, of course, that's like the major shootout action set piece in the film, basically. So of course that's going to be a level in the game. There's going to be a fight in a train cabin, I'm pretty sure. But what other stuff, like, what can they adapt? Like, because in a lot of these games, I think it's, you know, thinking back to like The World's Not Enough or Tomorrow Never Dies, like, when they had these slight bits of adventure or like non-action gameplay type stuff, like trying in video game form to convey those aspects of Bond that aren't punching dudes, shooting dudes, or driving a car, but are still like so much part of the fabric of it, like trying to include that part is always like an interesting thing to do, or it's just interesting to see how they tackle it. And the film they're using as a template, or, you know, source material here, has a lot of that stuff and not so much of the action stuff. So hopefully that all still gets included one way or the other. Maybe a boat chase. Actually, you're right. I kind of forgot about that. I said that he doesn't actually drive any of those things mentioned, but that's not true. Well, I guess it's debatable whether it counts as a speedboat, but he drives a boat in the film. That is true. Yeah, I mean, they make a big deal of the Aston Martin, so I'm sure there's going to be some driving. And I'm sure there's going to be some shooting. But you would expect nothing less. Have some promotional renders. And this stuff looks pretty good. Unsurprisingly, like, this is 2005, but even going back several Bond games, the promotional high-resolution CG Bonds they had for both Pierce Brosnan and the fake made-up Bond from Agent Under Fire, they all look good. Have the car without that pesky Bond. Like, it's not a, you know, I feel like the hair is not a super great match, maybe, for how he looked in that film in particular, but that's clearly a young Sean Connery. Like, this is not the in-game model. We'll see how it looks in the game, but I reckon it's going to look good. Like, Everything or Nothing looked great. Like, the graphics were not an issue. Now I'm trying to remember. I wonder if... I have to look it up. What studio made Batman Begins? Because that's another game that I like really like, and I think gets like not enough credit, and does a good job of like realistic likenesses of characters, but it still has like a sort of a stylized vibe to it. Because that's an EA game. It's a linear action adventure, according to Game FAQs. Oh, that's right. It's Eurocom. Yeah, that makes sense. That Eurocom did stuff for Bond as well, but they didn't do these games. But I can see some similarities. I think Eurocom did The World's Not Enough for N64. Anyway, that's an extreme tangent there. But I don't think that was their only Bond game either. Well, we'll get to it in the spreadsheet at some point or another. Yeah, because they did... That's what I was thinking. Like, I thought they did... Because Treyarch did Quantum of Solace, but I think Eurocom did maybe Bloodstone. I'm not positive, but yeah, they've done some good work for sure. Remember this character from the film? I don't. Bizarre, yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I'm guessing this is one of the names that were in the credits of people who were not in the film. And so is this, probably. Alright, well, I mean, it makes sense. Like I said, the film had a pretty small cast, and if they're fleshing it out, like the movie was, what, an hour 50, and it has like 3 action scenes. They're making a fully fledged console game. There's going to be a lot more stuff in it, and with that, some more characters. Makes sense. Got another classic Sean. And this is very funny to me. Grant, this is an awesome character in the film, right? And the way he looks here, the way he's dressed, doesn't seem like it's like out of character, but it's also like, how can we take this suave 60s spy thriller character and turn him into the most generic ass 2000s video game character. Like, if you didn't have the actor likeness with all this sort of personality and style that comes through in that, like, if you imagine if this was like, oh yeah, we're making our original Bond game and here's our original Bond henchman, and like, I mean, fuck it, even if you looked, even if it wasn't this, like, if without the association that I now have, having seen the film and knowing how great this character and how great his performance is in the film, like, holy shit, what a generic ass bland visual look for a character. But it's just funny as like a promo thing too, because for most of the film he wears a gray suit and he looks very dapper. Like, I don't know, maybe they wanted the contrast between him and Bond, I don't know. Who, by the way, I mean, I guess that there's the promo pictures and everything, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't wear a tux in this film either. But I'm excited to, I'm sure we will have multiple exciting battles with this character in the game. That's what I would expect anyway. Yeah, but I think like his character works really well because he like because the plot is so simple. There's like, that's kind of what I mean with it being a pretty intimate story. Like, there aren't that many, like, whenever we have to sort of shift perspective to see what's happening elsewhere in the plot, there isn't like 12 things to jump between. Like, it sort of follows Bond for the most part, and then we sort of see what's happening with Spectre a little bit here and there. But they, like, we just kind of get to see, you know, we kind of get to see Bond being not stalked necessarily, but like surveyed over the course of the movie too. So yeah, even when he doesn't like do a lot actively on screen, like, he just has this commanding presence with a lot of like tension and build up. I don't know, it's just a fucking good movie. Yeah, he's a great character. Anyway, we have some video clips to watch, some promotional material, and I think watching this ahead of playing the game is fair game. There's going to be spoilers, but I think it's interesting. Just, you know, you would have watched this before playing it back then as well, most likely. There is at least one like behind the scenes thing. There's probably more stuff unlockable in the game, and we're certainly not going to watch that before we play it. But after we finish, I'm going to see if maybe there's more stuff that may or may not be accessible in game. I'm sure some of it's like going to require beating the game on hard or cheat codes or something like that. We'll get to that when we get to it. But we'll get to see some things to sort of set the tone and set expectations. And if we're lucky, we're going to see things that might create expectations or turn out even a bit different from the actual game. Who knows? Mute this, and I have a whole bunch of videos here. Actually, there might be some overlap, but I think they're all. So, oh, let's take a look. Doesn't seem super recognizable so far. Looks fucking sick though. Yeah, I think this trailer's had more explosions than the film. Well, that's not necessarily true. There's a good helicopter explosion and a pretty good boat explosion. More shooting though. Yeah, good old QuickTime videos. This, I think, was taken from IGN's YouTube. You know, while that's still around. All right, let's. There's just a whole bunch of clips here in kind of random order, so check them out. There's Tactical Grant. Yeah, the active volcano I don't remember from the film. I gotta say though, like, as long as the locations aren't boring, this time period, alright, that's a little bit different from the film. Right, got it. RC helicopter exploding. Okay, okay. Dude, I'm getting pretty fucking pumped to play this. Game's gonna be sick. Oh, the manual aiming. He even got a Bond move from doing that. Thanos copter indoors. Dude, that fucking bridge driving scene with the jumps. Holy shit, I'm excited for that. Jetpacking around Big Ben, it's pretty good. The director's cut of For Russia With Love. Yeah, it has a few more action sequences that were not in the initial theatrical cut. Yeah, Great Escape, like, it was a weird little trend, right? Because The Warriors was right around the same time as well, like 2005, 2006. 2004 maybe. Like it's like, because it didn't really like keep happening, but I think it's funny because you would think almost that it would become more of a trend, seeing as like the time period when concurrent film-based video game releases was kind of coming to an end. I mean, it still happened for a while still after that, but I think of like you know, Wanted and like Jumper, Griffin's Story, whatever it's called. I haven't seen the movie or played the game for that matter, but there was like the early MCU stuff like Iron Man and Thor and Captain America, and even those games, at least Captain America, like doesn't follow the movie at all either. Like, it was certainly reaching the point where trying to develop a video game alongside a film was just not practical. It doesn't work because games take longer to make. So you would think that like wanting to use established IP to sell a game, taking a movie that's 30 years old so you don't have to worry about the timeline in the same way, seems like it would become only a more lucrative thing. But I don't know, because I suppose it was more that like, well, you just do mobile games instead. I don't know, but I think it is a novel, kind of fun thing, and you know, it'd be interesting to see more of it. What's up, Franken? Iron Man and Hulk were on PS2. Well, there may have been a PS2 version, but the Iron Man film came out in 2008, and I have the PS3 game. There were Hulk games on PS2, because there's Hulk Ultimate Destruction, but wasn't a game based on the Ang Lee Hulk film? Was there? There might have been a game that was sort of adjacent to it, but not necessarily based on it. I'm not sure. Yeah, The Thing, exactly. Or 3 Hulk games. Yeah, you had Scarface, the aforementioned Godfather. And I'm sure there's others that are like escaping me at the moment. But again, like it's all kind of around that. I mean, Ghostbusters is a slightly different thing, because it was I mean, you could slot it in there, sure. Like it's got enough common ground to um to justify it being included. But it is still, in my mind, a little different. Like I think it aligns more closely with it on account of it, like having the characters and the actors and everything, but it's still like a sort of a separate thing. But of course, it is sort of made as a sequel, and a sort of period piece kind of thing, because that's kind of fun too. Where, like you said, Sean, like just seeing like period pieces in general, I guess, isn't like, in a way, I suppose maybe it's more common now than then, but it's sort of interesting. But to go back to a comment I was making, watching the trailer, like there are games like Rogue Agent, which is like the epitome of boring ass gray hallways. The locations are just super boring in a way that it's easy to associate with like realistic visuals circa 2006. But for my money, and that's where my mind was kind of going with Batman Begins as well, like seeing these, the PS2 Xbox era sort of visuals, that technology and associated inherent level of stylization in creating sort of believable environments and locations is like really exciting to me. And it just kind of went off a cliff with the PS3 and 360 with this like generic normal mapped pixel shader Unreal Engine 3 environments. Like realistic looking games from 2005 on the PS2 is like super exciting to me, and like realistic games on the 360 from 2009 is like falling asleep. Yeah, Mr. Rion, the Great Escape game came out, which is funny too because it had like a there's like a Spectrum game or like a microcomputer Great Escape game. It's pretty funny for this like 60s film to have an 80s computer game and a 2000s PS2 game. Got legs. And I mean, if we want to get real technical about it, didn't Die Hard Nakatomi Plaza sort of end up around that time frame as well, like 2003 or something? Like that's a very different story, because that started as like a build engine, like Duke 3D mod that turned into a Half-Life mod that turned into a commercial thing, and it was in development for a long time. It was certainly not a project that was conceived to jump on any kind of trends, but I think by happenstance it sort of aligns with some certain kind of zeitgeist there as well. Batman Begins to me is like an overlooked hidden gem, to borrow an extremely tired phrase, but I think that game's awesome. Like I don't remember, I could look it up of course, but I don't remember where it ended up on my ranking of Batman games. I can go to Jiggy.com, a website which I haven't updated in like 3 years, well, a year and a half anyway. But I did wait, hang on. Oh, never mind. I have to imagine that, yeah, number 9 is where I put it out of like 55 games or something like that. I think the animated series Batman games are pretty much of a mixed bag, but some of them have some merit to them for sure. But Batman Begins rules. And that was supposed to get a sequel. Like there was a again, you know, speaking of how that era of like movie licensed games kind of falling apart, I think probably Eurocom as well were working on a Dark Knight game, but it was canceled. It was never finished. It's weird how many of them got canceled too. Felt like it coincided with the HD era. Dark Knight was pandemic. Okay, yeah, I see. Dirty Harry, Taxi Driver, and The Dark Knight being canceled. Yeah, there was Namco was working, or whatever studio, I think it was a Namco owned US studio that made Dead to Rights. They were shopping around, or there was like, I don't know what state it ever came to. I don't know if it actually began proper development, but there are screenshots out there of a kind of prototype slash pitch kind of build of Escape from New York. And it has like the Dead to Rights UI and everything. So they presumably took that and like put Snake Plissken in it and pitched it. I mean, I'm sure John Carpenter would have loved to take the paycheck for that. Dead to Rights wasn't a bad game. I would have liked to see that. Someone's doing Heat, yeah. But yeah, certainly, like I said, concurrent movie type stuff was just like went away pretty quickly, because it was still like on the PS2 for sure. Like around that time, it was still a fairly common occurrence. But it makes sense that you say. I agree. Like as I was saying, like a big issue is that game development like isn't as quick as making a film. And part of that is, of course, like the increased standards of fidelity, meaning it's more expensive and more time consuming to create assets. Not just models and textures, but animation and mocap and performance, like all that stuff is just more complex, which is what contributes to the games taking longer to make. Would I agree that From Russia with Love looks more muted than something like Nightfire? Not really. Maybe very slightly, but I would not put it as part of any kind of aesthetic trend, because I think the brown and gray kind of HD soup trend had not started at that point. Gears of War is clearly a game that is sort of credited / blamed with ushering in that kind of era of visuals. And without doing any additional research, I can't say for a fact like how accurate it is to sort of pinpoint it to that. Because you could arguably look at something like Lost Planet, and that's not like brown, but it has like a more subdued sort of real-ish kind of look to it. But I think when you think of like the stuff that's really drab and ugly to look at, it's like 2007 through 2010-ish. Like by 09-10, things weren't even brown anymore. It was just green. It was like gray and green. Like if you look at like Burnout Paradise, or like Ninja Blade, for some reason is a game I keep thinking of. Even like the original Demon Souls, like those games have a lot of, which I guess is also From Software, but they're very like gray and green. They're very not just desaturated and muted, but like they have this sickly kind of gross look to it. But early 360 games, in a lot of ways, and even like some early PS3 stuff, was actually, and this is something I wish more people did for longer, didn't use a lot of new rendering techniques. They didn't use a lot of like pixel shader stuff. They essentially did like PS2 style rendering at higher resolutions or frame rates. That's why like Ridge Racer 7 is like 1080p 60 on PS3, because it's like it has PS2 graphics essentially, and it looks great. Like Dead Rising also doesn't use, I mean, that clearly looks sort of next gen because it has like all these characters and open areas and whatever. But it doesn't use normal maps or anything. Like all the character, like for the most part, it's all like diffuse textures only. And I think, I mean, it's not normal maps that make the games look brown and gray and whatever, but I think a lot of it has to do with the more standardized look of Unreal Engine 3 and the sort of expectations that came with what a next game should look like. And it's not specifically Unreal Engine. Like, I think Oblivion looks like dog shit too, and it kind of does so in a slightly, you know, in a way of its own. But early 360 games didn't really look that way, and I don't think, like, you could possibly make a case for, you know, a very small handful of games that used normal maps and stuff on PS2 and Xbox, like Chronicles of Riddick or Doom 3. I don't know if Black on PS2 did, but like there's a few late Xbox games that sort of look like 360 games or use a lot of that more advanced rendering technology that is more associated with the graphics of games of that later era. Yeah, Halo 2, I suppose. And I don't think those games either exhibit like that style or trend. So I mean, it's obviously not purely to do with technology. Guilty Gear Xrd is also Unreal Engine 3. You know, it's not part of the engine that does it. I'm just saying, before you had a certain kind of default settings for shaders and for lights and materials and what have you, that lend themselves to a certain look, you as a developer were kind of forced to make decisions with regards to stylization or how things look. And I think some of that overall trend of a muted look, it was sort of easier to go that route in a way when you had some of that standardized stuff to lean on. But I mean, you could probably look at PS1 games even and find stuff that still has a muted brownish look to them. But I wouldn't say that they're part of any trend. There's no, like, I think if you look at a more cohesive period of time where that's what things looked like, I think that started like, there were things like Gears of War in 2006, but they were trailblazers, if you want to call them that. And then by like 07, 08, that's when it became sort of a standard thing. So I don't think, I mean, if anything, I think games like Batman Begins especially, but to a degree, Everything or Nothing, and maybe this game we'll see, they sort of stand in stark contrast to those games, because despite looking for a kind of, or aiming for kind of a realistic vibe, they still aren't afraid to embellish and use color and have a more flavorful atmosphere to it. What's up, Ingvars? Thank you very much for the good luck wishes. We might need it. The Triple X game for Xbox, that sounds pretty sick. Let me catch up here. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Doom. Like, Quake obviously is a super brown game. And it's funny, as a side note, I hate that, like, I shouldn't say all, but a vast majority of kind of boomer shootery type stuff, a lot of it is going for kind of a vague horror-y sort of vibe with a lot of browns and stuff, and I wish we got more variety in aesthetics in those kinds of games. Some of it was due to sample content. I think that makes perfect sense. Because that's my take on it now, that like, the reason why I'm always so excited to go back to PS1 stuff in particular, but a lot of stuff on PS2, like, my sort of thesis is that in the transition from like 2D to 3D, there was still a lot of the main, or the kind of fundamental aspect of video game graphics of like putting pixels on screen at a certain make certain pixels a certain color to make a picture. That's like how you did graphics for decades. And even up through the PS1 and Saturn and N64, like you're starting to see at that point the ability to do actual real-time lighting. Like you're starting to see the ability to achieve a kind of programmatic or algorithmic approach to generating imagery. I mean, obviously you could generate imagery with algorithms since forever, but like combining a model with multiple types of textures with lights, and like you end up with a result that isn't an artist putting paint on a canvas. Whereas like on PS1, by and large, and even on PS2, you have an artist putting paint on a canvas. It's just three-dimensional character-shaped canvases on a three-dimensional environment canvas, basically. But not only like do you have that aspect of, well, with great power, great responsibility, and all that, like you can do more. Obviously, Unreal Engine 5 or whatever like isn't less limited than what people were doing on PS1, obviously, but it is geared towards a certain approach and certain method of making graphics that is kind of built for you to be able to lean on, and by extension perhaps rely on, standardized solutions for things. That means in a lot of ways that it's perhaps intuitive. You don't have to be a painter and you can still achieve nice looking, good graphics. But it not only means that if you are a painter, you might have to jump through a couple of extra hoops to like reach the canvas with your brush, but also you don't kind of have to make that effort if you don't want to or can't be bothered or what have you. So I think, you mentioned renderware before, and I think that's where you kind of see, I mean, not to say there aren't renderware games that look good, but there are certainly renderware games that look like renderware games. Just like there are UE3 games that look like UE3 games. And you're starting to get that standardized package where you can make assets and someone puts it in there and it kind of ends up looking whatever. And it doesn't feel like a super strong, cohesive, creative, artistic vision. And I think we've only gotten, like, that has only increased since then. The possibility space is growing as well, but the way you kind of have to make a concerted effort to actually break free from a sort of packaged, built-in standard means that you only get that if the developer considers it like important enough to be like a core tenet of the design of what they're making. Whereas on PS1 and even PS2, at least, if we're not talking renderware stuff, maybe, even when trying to make realistic things, I mean, you can look at like Metal Gear Solid 2, or you can look at, I don't know, Resident Evil 4, Final Fantasy 12, whatever. A lot of those games have like super, for its time, high fidelity, high quality graphics that are in a lot of ways, as realistic as it can get. But there's still a lot of room for art direction, because there's no substitute for it. Whereas I think with more modern technology, I don't think there is a substitute for art direction, but you can kind of you can get by without the art direction having to do as much of the heavy lifting. Anyway, I don't really know what trailers we've watched here, but let's watch one or two more and see if we can actually get to play the game tonight. How about that? The multiplayer trailer. Let's check that out. Classic villains. All new maps. Split screen. Power-ups. All right, that's pretty good. Highly authentic to the film. Vehicles. Dude, I mean, that's pretty ambitious. Although I wonder if the vehicles... I wonder if you can do 4-player deathmatch with vehicles on PS2. Like, that seems ambitious. Hashtag bad odd job. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's steps. Do the gamma on this. Out of control. Yes, this is cool. This is like camp from the film. Unsurprisingly, they made that. And even when we watched the film, there was stuff when they're in like the cathedral or whatever. I'm like, man, I'm excited to see this in PS2 graphics. All right, Spectre's global domination headquarters, I suspect. Not quite seen in the film. I mean, we see Blofeld's office, but that's about it. Oh, yeah. The chopper. What happens in this movie? Not a lot of what's in this trailer. This, for example. Dude, this looks sick, though. I mean, this game's got a lot to live up to with the motorcycle levels in Everything or Nothing. So I'm very excited to see how close this might get. Oh yeah, the movie's great. I'm just saying it's not exactly this. Hard cut to the logo there.
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
A little bit, maybe. Is this a movie where he goes keeping the British end up? No, that's Roger Moore. I don't remember which film it is, though. But I think it's The Spy Who Loved Me, maybe? Weird feeling excitement purely because of the setting. I mean, it's fun, though, isn't it? Wow, we got postage stamp resolution.
Twice has Krylenko tried to kill me. The third time he will succeed. Unless we kill him first.
Slightly more sinister tone than in the film. But it's dialogue from the movie. That's actually kind of sick, though, now that I think of it in the film where they snipe. Oh, dude, they've got the grappling, the rappel walking. Oh, dude, rooftop jumping. This game's already 8 out of 10 at least. Oh, dude, that's a building right there with the poster.
Once again, my friend, I'm in debt to you for saving my life.
A little peculiar trailer, but damn, it got me hype. Seeing all these like locations from the film recreated like lovingly and meticulously, or at least as much as the PS2 hardware allows, like, man, that's sweet. I think so. I didn't crop this. Someone else did, I reckon. IGN might have. Their watermark's still in the corner. Oh, dude, this is sweet. The intercutting live action footage in the gameplay. Imagine if they could like... I guess I don't know if there is actual FMV in the film, or like in the game from the film. That'd be sick. Imagining them kind of intercutting in the game. I remember it being a huge deal in Rogue Leader for the GameCube, where they had like super crisp footage from the Star Wars films as like cutscenes in the game. Because the original trilogy hadn't been released on DVD. So I don't know if they sourced it from like Laserdisc or something, but I remember seeing cutscenes from that game and like, holy shit, this is crazy. It'd be kind of sick if this game does that too, but I kind of imagine that it's not going to be a thing. For several reasons, not least in that I think the game departs quite a bit from the film. So it might be hard to find footage that you could actually use in that fashion. Yeah, good trailers though. Like I said, you know, I just fucking get pumped to play it. All this looks lovely. That baked lighting looks great in the night scenes. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I think it's such a... Like, even today... I think there is a... But, I mean, even today, but especially 20 years ago... I mean, it went back a lot further than that, but, like, there was an over-eagerness to jump onto this kind of new technology, even though clearly consoles didn't, like, properly support it in terms of performance. Like, Ray Tracer 7 being a 1080 60 game because it had like PS2 graphics makes it infinitely better to go back to today than like 90% of driving games on PS3, because they all run like shit and they kind of look like shit too. Or at least they don't look... I mean, I was going to say they don't look good enough to justify the performance, but I don't think it would be possible for them. I don't think the latest Gran Turismo or Forza look good enough to justify locking it to 30 FPS. So, I mean, that hasn't really changed. But this is still, like, this game is a 30 FPS game. It's pushing things pretty far. But given that the sort of the UE3 brown visuals, whatever, normal map shit, like, that didn't make games look better aesthetically to me, artistically. So looking at games like Batman Begins or Everything or Nothing or this game, imagining just like playing those like in 720p at 60 FPS on a 360 would be like, damn, that would be so much better than the shit they wouldn't go on to do. Like, I think in general, console games, they should just target previous gen specs and not run awfully. And I mean, that's kind of why I was excited to get a Series X at launch, because like, well, my Xbox One games are going to run okay on this one, and if/when I get a PS5, even though they're like $2 billion, I'm like the bigger appeal to play PS4 games at better frame rates than anything else. So yeah, I agree that like it's a combination of that whole aspect in combination with this particular time frame, to me, or this particular level of technology / fidelity, just striking a nice balance between verisimilitude and detail while also being fake enough that you can, or sort of lo-fi enough that you can fake a lot of stuff, and you can diverge a little bit from reality in making things a little more stylized in terms of the lighting and whatever else, and it doesn't stand out, it doesn't look odd, it isn't at odds with the level of realism or fidelity in the rendering. Whereas once you start going a little bit further, then you have that kind of uncanny valley-esque issue, sort of. That's my take on it anyway. Yeah, I think we're sufficiently excited. But before we jump in, we have one last thing to do, and that is to check out the manual. And that should be quick, because it's like 4 pages long for some reason. I don't know what the deal is, but let's see if I can find There we go. I'm surprised because it seems early for a manual to be this flimsy. Certainly that would become standard until they just stop doing them altogether. But we've had some previous Bond manuals that were pretty in-depth with all the gadget and weapon descriptions and everything, and this has like, yeah. There's 8 pages listed in the table of contents. One is multiplayer, which is kind of irrelevant, and one is limited 90-day warranty. So, black and white too, of course. Spared all expenses. Complete controls. Oh boy, can I even read this? I gotta make it larger on mine. Move with the left stick. Jump, action jump, climb vault, A button. Fire weapon trigger, lock on enemy, left trigger. Right stick for camera / targeting. X to use Bond focus mode during lock on. Y button for wall cover. B to dive roll. Black and white to swap weapons. No, wait. D-pad or white, I see. And black is for crouching. Okay. Yeah, sometimes Xbox controls can get a little awkward with the white and black buttons. This is probably going to be okay. I mean, I remember in Everything or Nothing, I kept pressing the wrong button constantly for using like hover and stuff, so we might have an easier time here even. Pause / dossier / map. Map? I mean, you could look at the map in Everything or Nothing. In some stages, like there were some of the driving stuff that were actually a little bit more open-ended, where you kind of needed the map. So maybe that's not so much of a different thing as I imagine it. Actually, maybe only the driving levels had the map. I can't quite recall. Inventory screen. All right. Driving controls. Firing and lock on as well. Tire punch. Okay. Accelerate with the right stick. I think the right stick driving controls were probably in Everything or Nothing. They have been in at least something we've played previously, but probably that one. Steer with left stick. Camera, right stick. Cycle weapon, same brake. Exit vehicle, all right. So I'm assuming there's going to be driving sections where we do not have the option of exiting the vehicle. And there's going to be more freeform entering, exiting vehicles. And all right, main menu, single player. Step into the shoes of Sean Connery and enter the classic world of James Bond. Multiplayer. Take on a friend and discover who is the best Bond villain. That's actually, come to think of it. The back of the box also talks about villains, so I have to assume that you just don't get to play as Bond in the multiplayer. I wonder if that was some kind of licensing stipulation thing. Because there, like Nightfire has this weird fucked up thing where if you play a team mode, like Bond cannot team with villainous characters. So it's like really clunky to try to set up teams for deathmatch. Like good guys and bad guys cannot be on the same team. So it could very easily be either like a Sean Connery thing, but it could also be the developers saying, like, you know what, Eon, your rules are fucked. Forget it. We're not putting Bond in there. Whatever. Let's just have a bunch of villains so they can kill each other. Are you happy now? And they go, yes, that is in accordance with our judgment. And like, okay, cool. But it makes for kind of an amusing sort of thing. But I think it's probably clever to sort of just run with that and use that as the framing for it. Like if that's what they sort of had to do. You know, not having Bond playable in the multiplayer, to me, is far less of an issue than making the teams locked based on what character are in them. It's that's a weird one. Anyway. Playing the game. Being the world's greatest 00 agent means traveling to exotic locales, battling dangerous villains, and saving beautiful women. Your adventure starts here. World Dossier offers an overview of your entire mission. In it, you can select a new level you wish to undertake, or view the list of levels you've already completed. It also tracks any bonus levels you may have unlocked. You can also purchase gadget and weapons upgrades here. Yeah, so Everything or Nothing had one bonus level that was like an unfinished level that you like unlock, you can play it, which I thought was a very peculiar thing. Very cool that they included it, but it's a little odd. But this, I guess, will have more than one. All right, health. It's not very easy to see this. I mean, the scan quality isn't great. This is of limited health, but we have health and we have armor. Equipped weapon or gadget, and remaining ammo. Basic moves. Marksmanship. Defeat an enemy with a well-placed shot. Okay. To log on a target, pull and hold L. So that's the auto aim. Oh, we'll get to the bond focus. Maybe the manual aiming is there. It just has a button, an extra button you have to press. All right, so bringing up the weapon select thing pauses the game, it sounds like. Stealth moves. Black to crouch. Crouching behind stuff will help you get hit. That seems logical. Rolling from one point to another can help you stay hidden from your enemies. To roll, press B. Wall cover, press Y. Blah. Carrying around corners while in a wall hug is an excellent way to determine if there are enemies in the vicinity while still remaining undetected. Shoot an enemy from a corner wall hug. Lock onto your enemy by pulling and holding the left trigger, then pull right trigger to fire. Bond focus allows you to shoot enemies with superior accuracy. In bond focus mode, your aim is so precise you can even target objects your enemy is carrying, such as grenades. Hold left trigger and press X. There's no indication of whether this is some sort of limited resource. I think probably, like, the impression I get from reading this is that they made the aiming system from Everything or Nothing kind of optional, where there is an auto aim where you lock on. So the way it worked in that game is you lock on, but you get this little laser dot that you can move around. But it also it's a little unintuitive because it means you lock on and, like, you can be locked on and still, like, not hit anything, because you still have to sort of manually aim that reticle. But here, I guess you will more easily perhaps aim to center of mass when locked on, but you can engage the focus to manually. But it could also be some kind of slowdown sniper mode that requires use of some meter or something. There's not a lot of explanation. No more FPS is welcome. How is this game? We're about to find out. We haven't started playing yet. I'm very excited, though, because the previous game from the same developer was excellent. And we watched a couple of trailers that made this game look very exciting. So I have high hopes. I'm cooler on GoldenEye than most people. I recognize that it's a well-made game in a lot of ways, but it's also an extremely annoying one. But I think The World's Not Enough for the N64 is another game that doesn't get nearly as much credit as it deserves. I think it's better than GoldenEye in a lot of ways. Like, if someone considers it a lesser game as a whole, I wouldn't argue. But in terms of taking the GoldenEye template and making a new game with it, I think they did make a lot of interesting tweaks to that kind of template. And it's a pretty good game all around. Gadgets. We got a laser watch. Q-copter. Perfect for getting into places where going through the front door is not an option. Q-copter can be used as a mobile bomb. Dude, it's pretty funny, by the way. I just realized they didn't credit Desmond Llewellyn on the box or anything. Oh yeah, no wait, he wasn't around for this. That's right. I kept thinking that he would have been just because it's an old movie, but it's like, oh, that's right. This was made in 2005. But I bet, had he been alive, he would jump on the opportunity to be part of this. What's up, Sword Fam? But I wonder if that means that because he is in the film, there's an actual Q briefing scene. I wonder if that's where they draw the line. They couldn't put him in there because they wouldn't want to fake his voice because it's too recognizable or something. Because that's kind of I don't want to say an odd omission, but a conspicuous omission if that's the case. Because we didn't see him in any of the trailers or anything, and he wasn't mentioned by name on the box like the other actors were. Oh, we'll find out. Briefcase turret. Sonic cufflinks. Cufflinks emit a piercing noise which temporarily stuns your enemies. Q armor. Your body armor, which you can upgrade with the right number of research points. Dude, we gotta collect fucking Q credits to upgrade our gadgets and our clothing. Pretty excited. You can upgrade weapons and gadgets through schematics you may find during your mission. Gonna search for hidden items. As you proceed through each mission, you earn research points for finding schematics, completing briefcase mini games, or performing special moves. Use those research points to purchase upgrades. This game seems fucking ultimate. From the inventory screen, you can access weapons or gadgets, swap ammo, change costumes, or get more information on an object. Alright, sick. Level dossier offers a look at the mission in progress. So that's like mission objectives and stuff. Yeah, from the level dossier, you can view your objectives and score, purchase upgrades, and access the options menu. Completing your mission. Score screen. Your score is comprised of how well you complete the mission. You can earn awards by meeting the time... Oh yeah, and disables requirement. That looks like a weird sentence, but they're talking about murdering human beings. But I guess they're calling it disable because technically you can stealth knock out people without actually ending their lives, but this is Bond we're talking about. Highly devoid of scruples when it comes to that stuff, I'm sure. By finding the Bond moment in the level singular, that's interesting, and by beating the level in 00 difficulty, awards unlock bonus levels. So interesting. That means it sounds like there are specific criteria. There's like time requirement, a disable requirement, Bond moment, and 00 difficulty. So there's like 4 categories. Okay. It sounds a little bit different. Score screen also tracks research and skill points earned through the level. Skill points can be used to purchase extras on the extra screen. Skill points. There's like a lot of stuff that they're kind of breezing past without really explaining, but I'm sure it's going to be mostly self-explanatory. Takedowns. I wonder if the disables will be a maximum or minimum. I'm pretty sure it's a minimum because it was Everything or Nothing had something similar, I believe. Because a lot of times technically you could kind of just sprint past stuff and not engage in combat. But I'm pretty sure that stealth takedowns or like headshots and stuff like that will give you much higher score. But there will be kind of a base number for just eliminated enemies, you know. But it all sounds like, you know, it's a system that has been kind of iterated on with each game, starting with Agent Under Fire, where there's a scoring and there's stuff you can do, and like the Bond moves were even in that game, but they were kind of refined and done better with each game, subsequent game. And in Everything or Nothing, it was this kind of aspect where you wanted to find those moments, and each level had like between maybe 1 and 5 moments, usually, you know, 3 or 4. And after beating a level, you could see like a little picture thumbnail of what the moment is. So you can kind of make a guess based on that, what you're supposed to do to trigger it. And it made it fun to kind of revisit levels to try to find those Bond moments, because each one gave like a big score boost. But this makes it sound like there is 1 per level, which like sounds like it could be a downgrade, but it depends on what the Bond move or Bond moment is. Because some of them, like when you have a couple of them, not all of them have to be very spectacular, but if there's only 1, maybe it is. But it could also say something about like the length of the levels, where it makes sense to not have like 5 things in a level if the level's really short. And I hope we get short levels. That was the most awesome thing about Everything or Nothing, that it has like 30 levels that are all like 2 minutes long. That was really sick. We're ready to begin, but it's already past 8 p.m. So in lieu of having to take a break in the middle of an exciting opening mission or anything, we're going to take a short break right now. I'm going to refill my drink. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick, stretch my legs a little bit, just limber up and get ready. But when I return, we will begin mission number 34, From Russia with Love. I'll see you guys in just a little bit. All right, I'm back. Let's get a timer screen, shall we? Split wants to cooperate. Looks like it is for now. There it is on screen. Get rid of the jams, hot as they are. Full attention here on game. Let's see here. Let's get the upscaler running. If I can remember the correct profile. Take a moment here to set it up on my end before we, so bear with me for a moment. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh. Lurk and enjoy game. Well, please enjoy. Pretty sure I will. Right. Let's see if we can't bring up some gameplay. Don't think this is the correct profile. This is looks better. Hard to say. Looks like that's centered. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure this is correct. Or at least good enough. It's pretty funny because this doesn't happen in the film, actually. This transition doesn't happen, but also this scene isn't in the film. So, yep, we got gun barrel. I would not be surprised if this game has a higher Bond quotient than the film. Because they're going to go pretty hard on including everything they want in a Bond game. Whereas the film is kind of predates a lot of those kind of tropes. I guess we should start the timer because the game has started.
May I help you?
A dry martini. Shaken, not stout.
Certainly, Commander Bond.
Where is the girl?
Elizabeth Stark, the Prime Minister's youngest daughter. We received word half an hour ago there might be another kidnapping attempt.
Closer to home.
She doesn't appear concerned.
Why should she be, with 007 here to protect her?
Yeah, tone's a little bit different than the film.
Too bad. The game is over, Mr. Bond.
Game's barely begun. Yeah. On a desperately 90 knot sound 75. Yeah, he's gonna be struggling with that. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, okay. Target color indicates enemy's health level. All right. Cover? Nope. Crouch? Nope. Okay. Sure. No, you won't. Let me grab the armor. Okay. Getting used to the controls. Oh, that's a friend. Can I vault? Rip that guy. How do I... B? Nope, that's not the crouch. Aha. I see. I can only vault over that part. Try to move the aim, like the reticle around, or just like running in a different direction. Oh man, it feels so weird just playing this on Xbox after doing the last game on PS2, because it has like the video from the Xbox just tends to be a bit sort of smoothed out and fuzzy. It has this like, it doesn't look bad, but the PS2 game, like Everything or Nothing on the PS2 had this like super sharp kind of like aliasing on everything. It's like taking a bit, just to get into this. But I mean, it looks good. Mini map there. Okay, A to reload. Try to open the door, but oh, okay, I couldn't target that guy. Whoa! New objective. Okay. The game's gonna take over the controls here and there while I'm in tutorial mode. Dude. Non-spongy enemies. He didn't die, I guess. Okay. Oh, I got a star. Ammo, I suppose. Environment's a real highlight straight away. Yeah, I mean, it looks so good. This kind of... Yeah, you have this, like... geometry, light, rays. I mean, I think the fuzzy video kind of helps. But even stuff like super simple... It would not surprise me at all. Like, obviously there's the baked lighting, but even like the texture maps themselves wouldn't shock me if a lot of it is just colorized with vertex colors and stuff like that. Like, especially for the PS2. It seems like these types of environments, it would make a lot of sense to do that.
Sir, they're heading to the roof.
It's a good thing I couldn't lock on to friendly British people, because I would have shot that guy in the face of the game. I mean, not that I wanted to or anything, I'm just saying. Developing an itchy trigger finger. Oh, dude, it highlights the stuff. Ah! God damn it. I wanted to shoot his grenade, but I accidentally shot him in the kidney and then in the dick. I mean, it did kill him, so it worked, but... Still trying to learn how to crouch. Not doing great. Kind of interesting that the... Like, when I switched to Bond Focus, it seems to, by default, sort of target the head. I'm like, expecting it to start... Like, I'm expecting the reticle to show up in sort of center of mass, and then I have to, like, actually aim up to hit the head, because that's how it worked in Everything or Nothing. So it kind of throws me off a little bit. But overall, it feels like... I mean, this is like the opening tutorial level, but just like feeling how the handling works. It feels like they've sort of attempted to make the shooting a little less awkward and finicky. Actually, I don't know if there's like fisticuffs in this game. I think did I disarm him? No, okay. Actually, look. Bond moment, defeat... Oh, it even gives us a hint up front. Defeat the helicopter quickly, which probably doesn't mean just like shoot it real fast. There's probably like some trick to it. Okay, yeah, so disables. Alright, yeah, so it does give us pretty clear cut here what the requirements are, and we can actually sort of track it as we're playing, which isn't necessarily the case in a bunch of the other games. London points, award schematics. So there is one schematic to be found. Okay, yeah, so special moves. I got 2 stars for achieving focus shots. That's probably something that's going to add some kind of score multiplier. Oh yeah, vibration off by default seems a little unusual. Turn it on and see. Aha! This is a quality game. Not like these PS1 pieces of crap we've been playing. It actually does vibrate whenever I enable the vibration in the how it should be. Subtitles, yes please. So, like, what did I actually hit there? Aha. Kind of interesting that the grenade fell. I would have thought it like would just trigger the explosion, but it exploded quickly enough. Wonder how the PSP version runs? Yeah, I'm a little bit curious about that as well. So the manual did not mention anything about melee combat. And, oh wait, oh, that's right, black was crouch. When it said combo hits, I would have assumed that that's something to do with melee, but that's speculation. I'm trying to take cover here. Doesn't seem like good cover. Oh yeah, we saw this in the trailer. Got him. Dude, that is highly satisfying. The camera like stays on them as they fall down. Ooh, what's this? A rappel point? Yes, so let me see. Maybe there's some schematics up here. I mean, the frame rate's chugging a little bit more than I'm expecting here, to be honest. But I'm probably better off on Xbox than PS2. That would probably be the case. Got some takedown stuff. Yeah, like we have the stealth kill, whatever. I just mean like, because Everything or Nothing, to the best of my recollection, had combat like kind of like the first Uncharted. Or maybe the sequels have that. Oh, okay. I thought it was dropping down. This is maybe even more exciting. Proper ass fucking Prince of Persia jump climbing. That is sick. Game is starting off pretty strong. Yeah, there's some solid overdraw, I guess, with all this smoke, and surely these chandeliers aren't all geometry either. Locked, huh? Wait, where are we going? Not there, I guess? Door?
My daddy's a very powerful man, you know. You can't just go around
Shut
doing
up!
Oh! Oh, thanks, that's helpful. Oh, I pressed the wrong button. I guess that's why. I meant to focus and I accidentally uncovered. Getting a lot of ammo here, but again, tutorial level. Walk onto objects. Okay. I will say it's a better, this level is like better at teaching you how stuff works.
How do I get to the roof?
You will need this pass key.
Than the opening level of Everything or Nothing, which is cool, but like kind of overwhelming because it just throws you into the deep end. Simple schematics. Oh, interesting. So the schematics is like a currency. They're not like specific schematics to a specific thing. You just get like schematic points that you can buy upgrades for. Okay, that's good because it means we're not like locked out from stuff from not finding. Oh, well, I mean, convenient, I should say. We'll just get whatever points we get and we can spend them however we see fit. All right, Sean, take care. Thanks for stopping by. All right, so now we can go back, enter that other door. That's kind of weird. I'm crouching, but the camera like doesn't change. Collecting a few extra points. I'm pretty sturdy. I don't really have to worry too much about taking hits, I feel. Especially when enemies keep dropping armor. Oh! Like, when the frame rate's low, there's like an additional sort of sluggishness to the aiming, which is a little awkward, but... Seems not... Actually, I guess the aiming sensitivity is like really low, but I guess I don't have options for it. Like, oh my god, trying to like turn the camera while you're running is like near impossible. I shoot the wire and not their balls, yeah. Sometimes that happens, you know. I'm aiming for one internal organ and I hit another. I reckon we're gonna battle the helicopter while flying a jetpack. That seems... Yeah, that's where this is going. It's just standing here. Alright, okay. Jetpack time. Let's enter the jetpack. What are the controls? The manual doesn't really say anything about that. Driving controls. Alright, well. Game's listening. Thank you. A and X. Press B while moving to dodge enemy fire. Alright, do we have different weapons? This is actually pretty awesome. Oh. Can I... Oh, that's right, yeah. I was gonna say, can I go into focus mode? I cannot, because I... My... descent. Oh, dude, this is pretty sick. Doesn't have a lot to do with Russia with Love or anything, but... Is there a helicopter here somewhere? Oh, no. Got these guys. There's... Oh my god! Dude, that was an incredible explosion. Destroy helicopter. Okay. Do it quickly. I think I know where it is. I mean, I'm locking on and holding down the trigger, so... If there's something else doing this quickly. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, that's kind of from the movie. Not this scene, but they're... Bond is battling a helicopter trying to ram him. Oh, dude, that's pretty sick.
Who are you?
The name is Bond. James Bond.
A line of dialogue that does not appear in the film, by the way. Yeah, that was a sick opening level. Oh, proper opening credits, too. Get a second gun barrel. A little weird, but I'll take it. Dude, this is so awkward, like not awkward, but weird. Like it's got higher frame rate than the game. Kind of cool. I mean, it doesn't. It's not like. I mean, I like it, but seeing all the actors flash by, like that's not what Bond opening credits look like. Okay, we get Moneypenny and Q, so surely they will appear in the game. That's good. Oh yeah, that's the other not quite from the film. Yeah, I mean, has nothing to do with the opening credits of the film. It's not modeled after it. It's not using the same music. But it's obviously a proper-ass Bond opening title sequence. And they also, they have the actors' names in the credits, which is better than in some games where they just put the characters' names. Stupid. But I I still think Tomorrow Never Dies has the best opening credits. Like, yeah, they can ride the coattails of the actual credit sequence from the film, but what they do in that game is you play 2 levels of the game. The game has like 10 levels, but the 2 first levels are both based on the opening scene in the film. And when you beat the second level, there's like a seamless transition from gameplay to the opening credits, like exactly the same way as it cuts to the opening credits in the film. And then they play the credit sequence from the film, but with all the credits replaced with the credits from the game. I mean, chalk it up to companies like EA, you know, only giving credits to developers under the threat of death. I don't know. But I think if they had the actual credits of the people who made the game in the opening credits would feel more like opening credits, you know, if they had credits in them. So by like putting the developers' credits in there, it would make it feel more like the credits sequence from the films. So it's like a doubly bad thing where it's like, not only do the developers not get credit front and center, which they should, especially when there's like a perfect excuse for it, but their attempts to evoke the feeling of a James Bond film credit sequence would also be executed more effectively if they had the actual developer credits in there. So I think that's like, it's a real shame that they don't do that. But at least the immersion doesn't break as much when we at least get the actors' credits as opposed to just the names of characters or some shit. I mean, yeah, they could have put the voice credits and whatever too, but it's like, at that point, is the voice of someone who's going to show up in 2 cutscenes more important than like the people, the developers, the artists and designers and coders and whatever? Like, because they're not getting any credit either. So I don't know, but it was a pretty cool opening sequence. Hedge maze unlocked. All right, so we cleared the disables requirement. We did not clear time. I don't think 7 minutes would be difficult. We were kind of dilly-dallying. We did get the Bond moment, so we apparently did take down the helicopter quickly. There was no trick to it, I suppose. I can't imagine anything would change, but I am curious if there's like, if the level could have ended differently if we didn't achieve the Bond moment. 12,000 points. I don't know if there's like medals in this. Doesn't seem like there are. 10 moves performed plus 2 research points. Yeah, we got, I mean, I guess the awards are like specific. They're like binary, you get them or you don't, and there's a set number of them. All right, we'll save it on Sean Connery number 1 here. Oh, we got a little bonus tangents. All right, so it looks like we've got significantly fewer levels than in Everything or Nothing, or fewer like missions to pick, but I can't change. Oh, maybe I go here. Yeah, okay. All right, so we can kind of, well, let's not scroll ahead too far, but count them. So there's the opening level. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It looks like 14 main missions, and I'm assuming everything with a dotted line is like a extra mission. The final one is after the last one, which is fun. But I would assume the scope of the game is still similar to Everything or Nothing. It just had like, the way stuff was like, that game had 30 or so levels, but some levels were literally a cutscene. Like there's a mission that's like, or there's several missions that are just briefings, and it's literally just you watch a cutscene and then you're done with it and you move on. So It's a little, the list is a little bit padded. I still like the way they did it, so you can just go back to, if you want to watch that cutscene, you can watch that cutscene. It's not part of a level, like it's its own thing. That's nice. And you also have some parts that are, you know, one sort of mission that is split up into like 4 levels in the game. And this maybe will have a little bit less of that. But we'll see how things work out. What's up, Retro Omega? You bought 2 copies of this that ended up both being broken. That's unfortunate. Oh, that's a nice little schematic. Makes it easy to keep track of stuff. Extras, villains, media, concepts. Oh, collect 15,000 skill points to purchase a video. Nice. So these, I saw the Sean Connery video on YouTube. I didn't watch it, but I saw that it's there. Maybe we might have seen these trailers in the QLab trailer. Oh my god. Okay. But okay. But these clips appear to not necessarily be something we could have easily found on YouTube. So I would want to try to get these unlocked. They're not terribly expensive given that we have 17,000 already. But I don't want to spend points on this before we have a sense of how valuable those points are. I don't know if we can like replay the first stage to keep getting 15,000 points. Regardless, we're not going to watch any of this before we finish the game anyway. But we might want to try to get some of this stuff unlocked so we can watch it after finishing the game. Concept art for level. Actually, is there only levels here? Character. So these are probably for multiplayer then, I guess. Octopus Island. Bronstein, yeah, he's from the film. Kurlenko. Sweet bug. Alright, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Alright, let's take a look at the... Ah, okay, so we can only see things that we have kind of come across in the field. Yeah, I mean, this game seems good. I think the period aspect is enjoyable, even though they kind of go a little bit, you know, you arguably lose some of that 60s feel when you have this extremely exaggerated video game level of spectacle, but it makes for a fun game, so I don't mind. But more than that, like, I just think the people who made this game and Everything or Nothing had the right idea of how to make a fun Bond game, so I would like to see more like that, regardless of the kind of time frame or setting. Like, a game like this wouldn't be made today just in terms of the scope and the structure of it, unfortunately, but if we can imagine a hypothetical game like this, it would be fun to have, whether it's because this also seems, again, like it's diverging quite a bit from the film. A loosely based game on, you know, Living Daylights, or I don't know, Roger Moore film, just to have, like, you know, we got the Pierce Brosnan game like this with Everything or Nothing, and then there's this one with Sean Connery. It'd be fun to have a Timothy Dalton and a Roger Moore one. I mean, hey, we can have a On Her Majesty's Secret Service one as well. Why not? So, okay, we got 7 research points, so we can increase the clip size, max ammo, fire rate, or SP ammo. So max special ammo. I reckon we should probably hold off on spending any of these points, because we're going to have a better sense of what's going to be worthwhile to upgrade. Never too late, Dalton still... Well, yeah, I suppose, to me, like, the voice performance of the main character is not the most key ingredient. Kind of talked about that in the beginning. Which in a way makes it kind of easier with Roger Moore, because it's not even, like, because he's not around, you don't have to worry about that in the same way. Well, I mean, you do, because some people are going to be upset about it regardless, but you can at least avoid the awkwardness of not inviting him to be part of it. Not sure what's going on with the Bond license. Don't think we'll get a beat 'em up. Well, I think there's a number of reasons why that wouldn't be the license for that. I mean, I'd love to see it, but it doesn't seem like a likely thing. But IO have been working on a Bond game for like, I don't know, 6 years or something now. I think we're bound to see that game sooner rather than later. I'm very excited for that game. But I reckon it's going to be quite different from this. Well, let's travel to Hedge Maze. This is supposed to be an actual map of where stages are set. Doesn't necessarily seem like it. I can't even really tell. Because this was London. Wherever this map is, I don't think London and Istanbul are connected like this. Well, let's go to Hedge Maze. Alright, so by default, the opening level was played on Operative. I guess we'll keep going on Agent, and we'll see what that plays like. We do get the option of picking 00. It kind of looks like Italy, yeah, but it doesn't seem... I don't know, maybe it's just map. Let's not think about it too hard. Are we still, like, in London? Are we escaping, or are we... Oh, okay. We're getting our briefing on site here, I suppose. Who is this briefing me? Certainly not M. I don't know. Level 2 here in media res. Like acceleration to the camera rotation. I don't know. The camera controls are a little bit funky. I like to stealth walk. When you're behind an enemy, pull R. Okay, so I wonder if we're gonna get some kind of indication for when we're in range. Oh boy. Still gonna use the controls. Hopefully no one heard that. We're fine. Oh. At least if I press the black button, I guess we open the gate. If I press the B button thinking it's crouch, I at least do a roll. I don't like reload or throw a grenade or do something. Oh, luckily he's not fucking staring directly at me. That was kind of cool though. The laugh. From stealth attacks, combos, and focus shots. Okay. I guess we're still in the tutorial sense. I still don't understand how this connects to the London part, but like at least that got a little introduction. I might as well learn the mechanics here. Can I stealth vault? Well, we still got points for that. Interesting that you don't get points for headshot, but you do for targeting whatever that target on their stomach is meant to be. Radio soldiers will call reinforcements. Use Bond focus to shoot the radio. Okay. I reckon I could probably take him out, but... like a stealth takedown. I still like because when I failed the stealth takedown before, I wanted to see if I need to get up close, if there would be an on-screen prompt. And I got close enough for him to kick me without a prompt showing up, so I'm guessing there won't be. Well, yeah, automatic. Oh. Ah, QTE. Okay. Brilliant camera work. Okay. I'm out of armor now, though. Yeah, I got a little confused about that vault prompt that showed up. Oh, this little bench. I thought it was like a secret gun or something. But yeah, the game's still very much not particularly punishing so far. So, blue dots, I reckon, are objectives, because they were before with the doors and whatever. But I wonder if that means that they're dudes. And does that in turn mean that if there's no dots, dudes? Great, really great. Fortunate. Hopefully we'll get roast in the game to the point of not. That's not a dude. Southgate key. Like calisthenics. Whoa, okay. So I got like a bond, well, not a bond move, but I got like a special move point for shooting him in the gut, which didn't disable him. But I still had to like kill him, I guess. Stealth. Well, stick with it. I'm gonna say like the silenced gun doesn't necessarily seem. Hello. Necessary / useful. There we go. Reload, please.
I'll kill you.
Oh. You will you? Da! Making a swooshing sound. I let go of the lock on and it made me lost sight of him. Can't sit down to crouch while I'm in cover. I guess in cover you're always standing up. No, I try to... I still don't exactly understand how to engage in melee combat. Over this. Oh, I can. I was gonna say, I guess he's not that sprightly, but so he is. Young and fit Sean Connery. Well, I'm glad that failing stealth is not really cause any issues. Bond moment, shoot the gas can next to the car. I guess I shouldn't pay too much attention to this stuff, doesn't it? Force command. 3 combo hits. I guess that's when I do the melee thing. Was there a map? Wait, is it on this button? Inventory screen. Oh, that's pretty good. Can't like spin Bond around or anything. I'm gonna say I'm definitely like kind of lost, but in fairness, it is a maze. Trying to see if I could. Trying to see if I can find a grenade here somewhere, but oh, okay. I guess I shot him by surprise there. So Like, you can fumble quite a bit and not get punished particularly hard, which I'm perfectly happy with. Like, Rogue Agent ended up being such a slog because you had to be kind of very cautious and sort of perfecty-ish. Not quite perfect, but you know. Points. Oh, I had a grenade there somewhere. Keep getting pistol ammo, so I guess I'll... Oh, okay. Standing. Oh, I don't know what's going on with the camera. Like, I can clearly spin it around, but sometimes it's just like very heavy inertia for like moving the camera. In here, there's a bunch of items here. I guess I can't pick anything up. Oh, okay. New. Gotta switch ammo types on the inventory screen. That's a little bit clunky. What I was trying to do. Yeah, you basically like walk up to them and press the shoot button. And it'll sort of initiate the melee combo thing. So this is not the mansion, I suppose. I will say it kind of feels, and maybe it's a little by necessity for them wanting to do a little more kind of open levels.
Alarm! Alarm!
But in a way, it kind of feels like about that. Ah! I guess I don't know if we can refill our health. It didn't occur to me. We need to find some delicious crumpets or something. But like, we have this sort of more standardized like level with mechanics. Oh. Pretty sick. Like less sort of tailor-made set piece moment-y kind of structure to levels. Sort of the impression I get. This. Target someone who's alive, please. More armor. I guess I didn't quite approach the mansion the way I should have, perhaps. I feel like I kind of want to stay away from the in here. Boat. Basically full. Ah! I'm trying to lock onto the barrel. Yeah, Bond moment. So the A button is also the reload button. It's a little dangerous to be hiding behind a waist-high piece of cover, and my reload button may vault me over it.
He's a dead man.
Like, being able to snap between targets like that is quite nice, and that's not something you could really do in Everything or Nothing, because the right stick would engage your, like, manual aiming. But here, you have to press an extra button to get into that aim mode, and I like that, actually. I think you kind of get the best of both worlds. Because I do think that's a pretty smart system. But the way it was implemented in Everything or Nothing could get a little awkward. So it's the same idea here. Like, when I'm locked in like this, I can't change my targets. I have to actually see them to be able to lock on. We're not actually scored on accuracy in this game, but I can already tell that, like, if we were, my accuracy scores would already be, like, so much better than in that game. Because I struggled a lot with, like, understanding and getting a good feel for how the aiming actually works in it. But here, it's like, so much more kind of just intuitive. On the level? Or do we actually do something in here? Oh, we get choked out, I guess, but... Didn't quite happen in the film.
Record time, Mr. Grant. You are indeed the
Actually, I guess this does happen in the film.
Kill the real James Bond.
I totally forgot about this.
From the Russians, their new Lector decoding machine.
And Bond is going to do it for us.
We assume.
But I got confused because the the London scene is not in the film.
In Istanbul, Tatiana Romanova.
This briefing doesn't exactly happen here or like this, but it's a simple enough streamlining.
Suspect it's a trap.
My reading of the British mentality is that they always see a trap as a challenge. And then you can avenge the death of our Dr. No. Let Bond's death be a particularly unpleasant and humiliating.
It's a nice touch there, because in the film it's kind of like that too. The mask like looks sort of obvious.
You're going to need a miracle, James, to explain where you've been all week.
Oh, Moneypenny, let me tell you the secret of the world.
You'll have time for that later, 007. Step into my office immediately.
Even that transition was like pretty slick, even though again it's nothing like the film with the hat. Oh, dude, proper M office level. This is so sick. This is like the second game to have this after the Game Boy game. Like, not only do we get Moneypenny, she's like a rare presence.
James.
Like full immersion into the Universal Exports office. Oh, I have to do a fully impossible mission here. Oh, I found a dinner jacket. Sick. Full light shining through. Dude, this game owns extremely hard.
It seems you have an admirer, a woman in Istanbul, Tatiana Romanova, who's fallen quite in love with you.
Oh, interactive briefing.
I've never even heard of a Tatiana Romanova.
Of course, girls do fall in love with pictures of film stars.
But not a Russian cipher clerk with a file photo of a British agent.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
No, it's some sort of trap.
Precisely. And the bait is a brand new Lector, a Soviet decoder machine.
The CIA has been after one of those for years.
And so have we. When she
Search.
contacted Kerim Bey, head of Station T in Turkey,
Lord
she said
Kerim Bey.
she wanted to defect, and she'd turn over the Lector to us on one condition: that you went to Istanbul and brought her and the machine back to England.
The whole thing is so fantastic, it just might be true.
You're booked on the 8:30 flight to Istanbul.
That was an item, and it was just a projector.
Waiting for you.
Good as this. I couldn't help notice that, like, M sounds like, that sounds like Bernard Lee. And it made me think for a second, I wonder if they used dialogue from the film. Because the dialogue is the same. Like, they could have just used his audio. Because there wouldn't be a lot of Foley or music or anything. Can I use the phone? Can I call Q? But, like, it's kind of cool.
You have your orders, 007. Move along.
It doesn't sound like it would be taken from the film. Certainly not with extra lines of dialogue like that. But it occurred to me that for some of the stuff, that could be something you could do. But it would obviously make more sense to have the flexibility and freedom of just getting an actor record dialogue. So good. Of course, in the film, Q just shows up in M's office and gives a pretty quick rundown of his suitcase, which is like the one gadget he has, basically.
Did you hear about that chap out of Oxford?
Oh, the one who's predicting that one day we'll all have computers on our desktops and be able to communicate on them.
Ridiculous.
Absurd.
Can you imagine that? Computers on a desk, communicating. Archives, Universal Exports. James Reed. But I think even more so than ever before, granted, like, given that we actually had Bond in a natural sort of conversation situation there, he does sound old as fuck. Whoa! Oh. Full fixed camera angles. Oh, that was a smooth transition, dude. Well, maybe not so smooth if I actually kept running, but... Camera in here could stand to use a little bit of adding to smooth out the motion. Oh! Camera's good.
Good morning, 007.
Oh, good morning, Q. How have you been? Busy inventing things?
Not as busy as you've been destroying them. Follow me, 007, and try not to break anything.
Likeness is a little iffy, isn't it? Connor looks great. So, of course, again, this scene doesn't exist because, like, the Q lab is not in this film at all. But, again, like, they knew what they wanted to do, so they were like, fuck it. We can extend the lore. Found ammo. Some extra Q... I mean, I'm all for it, to be clear. And there were, you know, we could see in the unlockable video stuff that we could unlock some kind of Q branch trailer. So I'm sure that would have been released at the time. You know, obviously there's nothing to say that the video stuff I was able to find with the 5 minutes on YouTube represents like the full extent of what was released. But in the stuff that I could see, I was surprised that like they wouldn't highlight like the character renders and stuff. Like, it would make sense to me to have like a render of Q. Although, again, I looked at the pictures that were on Moby Games, and there's nothing to say that that was the full extent of stuff that they released. I don't know what I pressed, but Bond wouldn't know either, so it's all accurate. All right, I'll look.
Here's something I'm particularly proud of, 007. This is the Q-copter. Light, agile television equipped for surveillance.
Well, I can see how you might get a rise out of it.
Oh, grow up, 007.
Dude, they went fucking all in, guys. I feel like this is maybe the one part that they didn't quite get to fully flesh out in Everything or Nothing. There are scenes, there are multiple Q Lab briefing scenes, but they're all just pure cutscene. I don't know what I'm using exactly. Hearing sound effects. But here they get the full on, you know, background gags and
Pay attention, 007.
dialogue with Q and everything.
This is a rappel belt. with a grapple and rope that will allow you to scale walls.
This is so good.
Of course, there are still some kinks to be worked out.
How much there's to explore here. This is arguably even better than the Game Boy QLab, but it's I mean, I don't know for a fact. They're both pretty great. All right, what you got first, Q?
This way, 007.
The way, please.
We don't have all day.
Yeah, that's why I'm addressing you, but I guess I'll just leave then. When you say this way, do you mean over here? You're gonna follow me? Actually, what's the objective thing say? Debriefing from M. Oh wait, okay, we're still in the same. Oh no, that was the completed one. Debriefing from. Oh, I guess the blue door is my objective, so walk into the pure area.
Typical terrorist situation, 007. There's a bomb somewhere in the training area. You have to find it, equipped only with your
Full
laser watch and
2-branch tutorial mission gadget practice level. That's pretty good. Use the laser watch to target objects through bulletproof glass. Okay, can't talk. Get over the impossible mission search mechanics. That's thick. How do I pick gadgets? Watch. I don't have to focus mode it. Charges pretty quickly. Alright. Bond games, much like Batman ones, they make sort of... I'm pretty sure I can gun this thing, but I have the watch ready, so... Tip over the table. That's cool. They can be sort of judged by their their implementation of gadgets, in the sense of like how cumbersome it is to actually try to use them relative to how effective they are. It's rather quite common for it to be highly cumbersome to try and do anything for like relatively little payoff. Okay, I don't know why I could fire like one round at a time. I guess I can laser watch that explosive barrel. See what's over here for. Yeah, the cover stuff seems fine. Like the level design isn't built around stopping to take cover, or else you're screwed. And like, there's no taking cover. Like, I'm just crouched. Like, the locking behind cover only works when you're standing up. So you're not meant or expected to do it with that stuff. But it seems to mostly work. Like, yeah, see, he's like standing up when I'm firing. So it kind of functions similarly to walking and standing behind a corner. Oh yeah, the attaché case. Unlock on the inventory screen to earn research points. More Bondy this way. Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine for this to not have like full tactical whatever, like being a little gung-ho. Even if it's not strictly in line with like how shootouts are filmed and staged in a Bond film, like when translating it to kind of a video game vernacular, it translates to a kind of loose and sort of fun feel to it that isn't like overly strict and demanding, that in a way I think sort of simulates the effortless nature of how Bond carries himself in an action scene. It's not so much a matter of it emulating what the shootout in a Bond film is, but emulating how you would imagine feeling as that character, kind of like not having to be like when you have to inch forward extremely carefully and snipe, you know, 2 gray pixels on the horizon, like in the GBA Nightfire. Like that doesn't make me feel like Bond. Oh yeah, I can just swap outfits just like that. Pretty sweet. So is this a puzzle that I select case? Wait, what? I wait for the Y? Okay, sure. You left a little puzzle box. Like in Onimusha. So I can go here and I can find cases, and whenever I decide to tackle the puzzle, I'll get some research points. Okay. And yeah, when there's stuff on the wall like this, I also can't take cover. I'm obstructed by the... I was gonna say fire hydrant, that's not what those things are called. Little robot like looking around the corner. Oh, okay, there we go. I was trying to get the target point, but he like ducked or whatever. Dude, this is like making me imagine / want kind of a 3D Impossible Mission. I wonder if they ever made one of those. Like, Impossible Mission has kind of come around. There's like a DS version of it that I remember playing and really quite liking, and I'm sure there's been others since. Probably like an iPhone version. But it seems like the kind of thing that very well might have had a PS2 version that would, for once, maybe not be a port of the original or a remake of sorts. Impossible Mission is, like, you know, a game that kind of lives up to its name, but has an absolutely impeccable atmosphere and is a cool game. But I don't even know what a 3D Impossible Mission would be or what I would want from it, but the idea of it kind of tickles me, even though the thought has never really quite occurred to me until I've been searching lockers and filing cabinets in this James Bond game. Right, do I just interact with this? Oh, do I have to hold it? No? Wait, what? I do, okay.
Congratulations, 007. Your training is complete. Now use this device to get yourself to Istanbul.
An airline ticket. How ingenious.
I expect you to return my equipment, along with the Lector device, in pristine condition.
I'll bring it back. From Russia with love.
I mean, that kind of makes more sense than him just writing that on the photo that he gives to Moneypenny. That's kind of cute that they worked that in. You hear Henry Jones Sr. when Bond speaks. Yeah, it doesn't really quite feel like Bond, you know, like, because that's the thing, right? By the time, like, Sean Connery still was in movies up through the 90s. And I suppose, I mean, by this point, obviously he wasn't like fully retired. He did this, but like he didn't really, like, I don't know if LXG was like the last thing he did, but I mean, he was clearly kind of winding down. But yeah, like, as of the late 80s, he was kind of playing an old man. And he didn't, like, he stopped playing Bond, and then he developed, like, you know, old man Sean Connery persona, whatever you want to call it. And this is like the voice of old Sean Connery paired with the Bond Sean Connery. I mean, it is what it is, you know, it has its charm, and it's not like it doesn't ruin the game or anything. And in this particular instance, at this juncture in time, I don't think necessarily getting like someone to do an impression would be better. But it's also like kind of impossible to not notice. Alright, we got the laser watch symbol. How do we do? 26 minutes. I guess the timer also included the Q lab part, but I'm taking my sweet time, so I reckon like the disables thing I think is going to be an easy target to hit on any level, but it's when you're going from the time that you're going to be skipping enemies that you might have to make an effort to try to get both at the same time. But I wouldn't expect, like in any game that tracks time like this, with the exception of Nightfire on the GBA that requires it, time would be something in particular that I would kind of only be targeting as I'm sort of grinding for points after the fact. And we're finishing it on 8, like I'm not going to swap to 00 Agent. So if we can get 2 points per level, that's a job well done in my book. Yeah, I mean, having just watched the film, I don't think does this any favors. But, you know, this is probably a higher note to go out on than Never Say Never Again. Alright, we got some research points and another 20k skill points. I'm very much enjoying this game. We're an hour in and we kind of got through the opening. So yeah, we missed 2 schematics. Istanbul Park 1 has only 2 schematics, so I wonder if that's a shorter level. Oh, we'll see. We're not going to worry too much about it. That's kind of a cool system. I enjoy this, actually. It's like very simple, but I feel like we've been somewhat lied to because we're not getting upgradable clothing. But that's okay. Just finding formal dinner jacket in a filing cabinet in Moneypenny's office is pretty good. Not something we've experienced in other Bond games, and I'm quite curious what other outfits we're going to be able to find. Like, I suppose we're probably going to find a black tuxedo. But I feel like in the film, he's kind of in that gray suit for most of it. There's probably not a lot of other kind of iconic outfits that he wears in this film. But obviously they could easily take other outfits from other films. Maybe his blue or whatever color it is romper from when he's at that like hotel resort in Goldfinger. I don't know. I always love getting to play dress up in games, so I'm just excited to see what outfits might be in the game. So now we have 27 points. Silenced PP7, I reckon, is going to kind of be with us for the entirety of the game, so it's probably not terribly invested points. Although Q armor is... nothing's going to come with us for the entire game any more than this. I think I can just pick any one of these. I guess we'll start with armor 1. Let's do this. Gonna... That's... there's no way that's not a good investment. It's actually getting a little bit late, but we, I'm having so much fun with this. But I'm also I'm enjoying getting to savor this and taking my time with it. But we have about half hour, so I think we should be able to do one level, like presumably kind of a real level. Although it only has 2 schematics, maybe it's shorter. Who knows? Find out. Go to Istanbul. It's so fun to be playing a good Bond game after fucking Rogue Agent. Love the way this looks.
Can I borrow a match?
Oh, I use a lighter.
It's better still.
Until they go wrong.
Welcome to Istanbul, Mr. Bond. Your transportation is here.
I feel like this exchange easier to make sense of in the context of the film.
Nice to see you. Karen Bay. It's been too long. Interesting car. Limited edition?
Your man Q sent it ahead. Warned me not to touch any of the buttons.
You were wise to take his advice. Otherwise, you might not live to regret it.
Come. They're waiting for us at Station T.
I'll drive.
Yeah, this is also not in the film. Pretty cool though. But yeah, obviously, like they're speaking in well, not in code, but like it's a security code thing, whatever. Like, yeah, that's obvious. But in the film, I feel like it makes more sense. It's more, you can follow what's happening in the. I feel like if I hadn't seen the film, I would be a little confused about that dialogue. But it's cool that they you know, that's what they can borrow from the film, right? There's going to be a bunch of stuff in the game, like what we're currently doing here, that isn't in the film at all. But the plot beats and the setup and like little bits of dialogue, small little isolated chunks like that, that they can kind of use. And I'm unsurprised. This is kind of what I was expecting. When we saw that trailer that had the live footage or the film footage spliced in with the game, I said, like, man, that would be so cool to see that, but I wouldn't think that they would do that. And this is a big part of the reason why. It's like they're going to want to reuse bits of the film, but have it play out slightly differently, in which case, like, it would be a pretty limiting factor to have the actual footage to sort of cut around, and here they get a little more flexibility. A to accelerate, X to reverse, B for brake.
I suppose it's customary to have people tailing you in these parts.
It's only the Russians. They follow us, we follow them. It's sort of an understanding we have.
There's the brake button.
So, let's talk about this
Yeah, so
business.
Bond is not driving while this dialogue is happening in the film.
And so do I.
But if there's a chance of getting the Lecter, it's worth the risk.
Do I have... I don't have, like, repel swing through the glass into the enemy. I look forward to doing that. I feel like the manual was talking about being able to look at the map or something, but I guess I haven't been able to figure out if that's a thing. Have the mini map. Pretty good. Here, I guess. Camera's a little tight. It's like hard to see what's on my left here if I need to make a turn. These, like, instant sort of transitions like that are pretty cool. I feel like they... I don't know. I feel like they undermine
That your truce with the Russians has just ended.
Grant's character a little bit.
Then who did?
I don't know, but the Russians are going to blame us. You'd best get us out of here.
You know, it's played with a little more subtlety and nuance in the film. Pull and hold left trigger to lock on with missiles. Pull R to fire weapons. Press Y to tire punch. I'm guessing that's the thing that comes out of the wheel to hit cars next to us. Good thing we're out on open roads here. Are these slightly more controlled forms? I'm holding... Ah, okay. Do I have... I was gonna say, I'm not locking on here. because I had the chain gun or whatever. Yeah, and these, I guess, slightly more controlled environments, even though it's sort of open. Kind of having better frame rates.
Maybe you can use one of your fancy toys to destroy their garage.
Assuming they don't destroy this car first.
If we need repairs, there's a mechanic in town that will gladly aid us. He owes me many favors.
I don't know what red dot means, but blue dot over this way. Hope we're not going to get mega copyright content ID'd by all this music. But we'll find out, I suppose. I reckon this is most likely... Well, I didn't take damage, so it's fine. I guess this is like the movie score. Fire punch. Oh, yeah, okay. Saw something pop out of my wheels. Explosions look really sick, he said. Oh, dude, it's really tricky to try to use the Y button while I'm using at least one or two other face buttons. Nice. Fire punch did its thing. Oh boy. Controls are a little unintuitive. Oh yeah, I didn't lock on. Whoops. I mean, I guess this scene is actually almost exactly like it is in the movie. Oh, okay.
They are destroying your car, my friend. Haste is the order of the day.
Yeah, I'm hasting about as well as I can. Blew himself up, but that's fine. I'm supposed to destroy... Well, not that door. But was I supposed to break this or drive into it? All right, I have plenty of health. We're fine. There we go. I was gonna say I can't seem to lock on. Oh, I'm out of. Probably should just use this to begin with. There we go. Blue dot. Get out of here. We're not going to be scored for accuracy or anything like that, so it's fine. Yeah, though. Ah, my attempt at using the brakes not... Oh, there's a tank. Having missiles here might have been helpful. This might work.
Tells me they're serious about this, James.
Is there another way to the station?
No, we have to get past the tank. Can you do it?
It's difficult, but not insurmountable. Wait here.
Find the turret and... Alright, okay. Wait, maybe? Looks like a rappel point. Context sensitive gadgets. I'd like to see. Simple one button press engagements. Not wandering through clunky menus.
Get down! Get
down!
down!
Oh! Get down! Someone's shooting me in the face! Dude, the jukes. Okay, I'm a little concerned about the tankiness of these guys. So I can't lock onto him until he's like leaning out like that. What the? Lock on just appeared. I absolutely do not get the reasoning behind the special hit point being like in their stomach. Whatever, I'll play along. Whoa, camera's doing things. Okay, I guess stealth isn't that important. Where's that fired from? We repel here. Like, you shoot him in the stomach to get the point, and then you have to change your aim to shoot him in the head to actually take them down. A little peculiar. But the shooting still feels good. I mean, even that is a very nice change of pace from Rogue Agent. Whoops, I probably shouldn't have repelled just yet. Oh, dude, that was pretty sick. I don't know if that's where I was supposed to kick someone through the glass or whatever it said, but cover, please. No. I guess if they're behind cover long enough, you like drop the lock on.
Flush him out.
Gonna be some other repel swing glass. I mean, I shouldn't expect to get every Bond moment on the first try necessarily either. Shotgun. Oh, dude, look at this big buff guy. I was just shooting blindly, hoping that I got close enough to trigger the melee. Am I jogging more slowly with the shotgun? Got Counter-Strike physics. Oh. Satisfying shotgun, though. That's pretty sweet. You know, that works pretty smoothly, I gotta say. Oh, there was a guy there, but I guess we... Game is very nicely generous with armor, at least so far. I don't really know where we're being shot at from. Maybe it's Grant. Whatever. You know what? Let's maybe, I guess it's the tank. I guess that would make sense. Pretty cool. Oh boy, I reckon I can take it, dude. Oh, dude, that's sick. Tip over. Shooting the grenades from their belt's really fun. Wouldn't mind a video game adaptation where you only live twice. Yeah, I mean, that at least has some like very James Bondy stuff, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, this movie is very conspicuously absent of a lot of the type of James Bond stuff that's like, oh, this would make for a fun video game. Like, there just isn't a lot of spectacle, and like the stuff that is good in this movie and that makes it, you know, a compelling film isn't really the kind of stuff that's you go like, oh man, this would make a sick game. So it is like a kind of peculiar choice. Is that, it's like, I guess that's an enemy with the rocket over there, but he appears to be shooting at the tank and not at me, so I don't know, it worked out.
Outstanding, 007. A bit over the top, but well done. Now, on to Station T.
Like, it's a whole thing in the movie that, like, this sort of conflict of sorts is very much, you know, a cold war, if you will. It's not until later that it's sort of brought to a boiling point. But even then, like, I don't know. That's the thing, again, like, there isn't a ton of action in the film. It's not really that kind of film. So it's a little funny how they sort of put this stuff in here. But it makes for a fun game. It just doesn't make it very... It's not very faithful to the film, but it becomes this kind of alternate version of the film that is a lot more like certain other Bond films. So it's like, you could say that it's a weird, awkward thing if you really wanted or expected a game to be extremely faithful to the film, but you would be kind of weird if that's what you expect anyway. So like, I'm just expressing my sort of not surprise, certainly not disappointment, but kind of amazement at what they did, I suppose. It's just kind of funny. Maybe they felt the movie was more of a blank slate, allowing for cool stuff. Yeah, like, that's the thing. Like, it's hard to say what it might have been. It could be that maybe this was, like... There was a small handful of things that they felt would be good, and it would be easier, maybe, to squeeze in more of the kind of elaborate, over-the-top stuff that they wanted to do than it would have been in, like, Dr. No or Goldfinger or something. So that's the thing, like, did it come from the development team wanting to do this film? Or was it, like, the result of some kind of negotiation based on what they wanted to do? Or was it, like, from Eon? Or was it from EA? Like, hard to say. Makes for a very fun game so far, at least. I mean, Everything or Nothing, I think, is really enjoyable, but I think that game also benefits from not being based on a film, because there's no... You don't get that feeling you're getting from this game, where it's like, it's a little weird. It's not, you know, it's not a big deal. It's not a problem in this game by any stretch, but because you don't have the comparison, like, what you end up instead with is like, when people say that, oh, Everything or Nothing, that should have been a film. And you think, well, I mean, if they made that a film, it would have to be pretty different, because you couldn't, like, take that script of the game and just make it into a film. That would be a film that's like Crank 2 or something. Like, it's a very different kind of film, but it works as a game. And I think it let them do a video game that had a James Bond feel, but it's like almost to the point of parody. But I think that is, in that kind of game, pretty much exactly what you want. So here you gotta get a slightly different take on that. Kind of fun. Surprisingly, we were still not far off from the time here. Less than a minute away, despite me not exactly speedrunning it. We only found, I think, one schematic. Level had 2, I think. I reckon this game might be pretty short, if this is indicative of how long levels are. But that's not a bad thing. Like, I don't need this game to be mega long. In fact, I'm relieved and glad that we don't get these, like, half-hour levels. I'm curious to see how that will pan out over the course of the game. But I think that's a good place to stop tonight. We took our sweet time getting this far. Just reading, well, not reading so much lore as watching trailers and looking at promo pictures, and getting sidetracked by discussion about mid-2000s era realistic video game graphics. That's a conversation I'm not likely to stop having anytime soon. We also had what I have to say was a very successful playtest of the Super Deathblow minigame, which will make its return for sure. I think we're about ready to actually enable it as a proper channel point redemption. So yeah, a good night's stream all in all for sure. I shall be back on Wednesday if nothing disastrous happens. And I look forward to picking up where we're leaving off tonight and continuing from Russia with Love. Very fun game so far, and I hope it'll stay fun. I hope it doesn't get annoying or frustrating or anything else bad. I don't know. I'm like terrified of games just being a slog and a nuisance to get through, but I don't think this will be. Gamer of the Year 2024, the event put on by Goaty_, accompanied with Easy Special, who's helping out, is a very fun, cool Twitch retro community endeavor that I hope to check in later this month, as it is ongoing. But I will probably try, because I think that's a cool initiative, to raid people who are doing Gamer of the Year stuff. One such person is friend of the channel Hazemaker64. So let's go see how he's getting along with these challenges. And if you're curious about Gamer of the Year 2024, I'm sure Hazemaker will be happy to explain it. So let's go check in on Haze, see how he's doing, cheer him on, etc., etc. And I will see you guys on Wednesday, hopefully. Thank you again for watching and for hanging out. I'll see you guys then. Take care and goodbye.